I think a good place to jump off is 2012.
All right.
You're invited to Necker Island.
Yep.
Hang out with Richard Branson.
Yep.
So, how do you get up there? Who do you meet? And if you would care to share that story.
I think to tell that story, I have to sequence it back to 2000 and 4 years before that lah. I kind of forget. Been doing too much time traveling.
2008.
Yeah. Okay. So it's about 4 years prior to being there. I read on New York Times that Richard Branson invited Tony Blair, Sergey Brin, or was it Larry Page? One of the Google founders. And a whole bunch of interesting people to his island. And I saw that. What is their agenda? The agenda wasn't really anything. They were just talking about like how to change the world type topics. And it's like, wow, I want to be on that island. So I took that article and then I emailed it to two of my bosses, which are the co-founders of this company called Mind Valley at the time. Yeah, so I emailed them. I said, hey, do y'all dream that big? We need to be on that damn island, right? So I emailed it to them. Then they replied, yeah, let's do it. Okay. 4 years later, on the exact same week I sent an email, I'm on the damn island, right? And this is not, I'm saying it in a sense of achievement or whatnot, it isn't, because for example, right, like I don't think having a selfie with Richard Branson or hanging out with his island is anything that fantastic. If you did some deal with him to kind of help uplift him or you did something really cool for other people, I think I admire that a bit more. But it was a very interesting exercise in seeing an intention become reality and in a very uncanny span of 4 years on the exact same week as well. And so both the other Mind Valley founders have also been on the island as well. But at the time when I sent that email to them, there's no connection to Branson at all. So to your question about like how that all came about, I think it was quite accidental. I think we just like went through life, and then at some point he does a lot of he invites guests over, but he raises money for charity. So you help him raise money for his charity, and then you come over. But he also kind of selects who lah. I mean, it's not anyone can pay and whatever, right? But he also, at the time, he wanted to learn from internet entrepreneurs. Because he's not really like fully internet generation, so to speak, right? And then so he wanted to talk to internet entrepreneurs from different parts of the world, just to brainstorm, see what's going on, what's the internet like, and things. And so that kind of like came to be now.
So you can't just donate your way in.
I think there are some avenues to do so. There is an Africa one I heard of that you can donate about $250,000. Wow. Then maybe you get to like hang out, high five him or something. But I'm not so sure about the details lah. But I think what was very interesting about that experience was that he was there for the meals and he was just like hanging out. He was like a beach bum, And then a lot of folks naturally wanted to talk about business, right? And, how did you do this? How did you do that? And so some kind of like interview. Clearly, nobody got the MISFITS memo, They were not like as chilled out as you were. And then so he was like, hey guys, let's just have some fun now. Let's cut the business crap, let's just have fun. So he would like, we were having this lunch one time and then he just, I think it was the dinner. Then everyone's like having some serious business talk. And he was like, okay, screw this. He just took a wife of somebody and danced on the dining table. He just like, they did whatever dance it was, like tango or salsa or whatever. Just pop, pop, pop. And I was like, shit, man, don't step on my broccoli, Very fun-loving. But I do think that like the main thing I carried with me, right, from all of that, right, was I asked him, why isn't he involved in tech? I said that a lot of folks who are maybe a bit older may grow up with him being an entrepreneurial icon, right, from his books and his entrepreneurial endeavors. But the newer generation, they relate more to maybe Elon Musk, maybe Mark Zuckerberg, right, and maybe Kylie Jenner, right? So how about Richard Branson, right? So why did you get involved in tech? And he said, Virgin, he knows the value of Virgin as a brand. Virgin injects fun into industries that are not fun. Railroads, Virgin Airways, telco, just things which are older industries which are not fun. And he says, I like fun, I'm a fun-loving person. I inject, like the people working at Virgin is a very fun brand. We just go straight into unfun industries and make it fun. Tech's already fun. And you guys are already having fun, right? It's like Virgin's not needed over there. Which is very interesting, right? It comes from a place of confidence almost for you to kind of know yourself and to know what really you provide to this world. So you're not just randomly going with what's hot at the moment, in a way. So I thought that was actually very, very Very cool.
Seems to me like he knows his unique value proposition is, you know, going in and changing the industries that are not fun into fun. And
Absolutely.
hence, if tech is fun already, then like this is not where I will shine. And like, I mean, my efforts are better spent elsewhere.
Absolutely. Which is quite cool lah. It's quite cool lah. I think it's a very cool thing to. I mean, it helps if you probably have some degree of extreme success already lah, right? Then you're like, you know what, I don't need to play that game, right? So.
And why were you invited out of everybody who, you know, that's two founders, and you know the third person is Khailee?
I don't know, guilty by association. No, the thing is like I don't know. So it's like there was some other middle people were involved in picking. So some other that means his people were involved in choosing.
But you were being submitted.
Exactly.
Among a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Just good luck lah, I guess. Good fortune. Yeah.
What are some of the conversations you had on the island? You know, Yannick, Silvers, and who do you met? What conversations you had?
Yeah, you know, I think at the time, like, maybe I'll pick out a couple. I mean, of course, the one I had with him about his where Virgin plays is, I think, is one. I think there's another one a bit more technical. I don't know whether you want to be. I mean, I just really wanted to understand, like, financially, how do you spin up 250 companies? How do you build the leverage for it? And what is the model of replicability?
Right.
Because if you do something 250 times, in an ideal situation, you're not doing it new each and every time. Something's common each and every step of the way. So, what I extracted from it is that number one is that he, as mentioned, he would go into a unsexy industry, like a more boring industry. Number two, he would usually go to recruit a team of folks who were number two and number three. Let's say an airline, right? And you go and get someone, say you're number two guy in some other airline, say, hey, why don't you be number one? Right? Okay, you come and you join this, right? Number three is that he would apply the same brand everywhere. Number four, that he would get money from banks. So he would borrow from banks to actually fund it, using the strength of Virgin as a brand and track record to get money from banks to inject into it. So on day one, he will own some of the top talent in the industry, the number two, number three person. He would go for a large and old industry, which has potential for disruption. Number three is that he would have his company cashed up by the bank, and he doesn't have to submit any equity at all. He owns the majority of the equity, or at least a very large chunk of equity, with no money down.
So this is so important because it almost seems that he's going in with zero risk, right? Because like how he started the airline business, the deal that he struck was, hey, if the thing doesn't work, you know, can I return you the airplane?
Yeah, so for that one, I mean, I don't know technically a lot of his other deals and whether all of them match the same pattern, but at least from my conversations, it appeared to me that was like a recurring theme of a pattern, and I have not read all his books, and I wasn't really an avid follower of him either, which I had to actually read up before I arrived. You know, he had a new book called like Earth 2024 or something. I'm probably getting the title wrong. Right, so it's ungrateful prick, right? I had to just read up, you know. I was kidding, but yeah, I had to read up all this. You know, I had to try to educate myself a little bit more. But yeah, so I found that was very unique. That was a very interesting formula of replication. Whereas that in venture capital and tech, where kind of the paradigm, at least I'm swimming in right now, it's different, right? We raise money from institutions or corporates or ultra high net worth families. They put money into a fund, and then the fund takes equity in the startup, right? So it's quite different from borrowing just based off a brand and a track record and a business plan, right? So it's almost as though the old school almost seems probably like something that's quite rare these days to actually play that way. I mean, this is a bit more technical, but I kind of feel there's actually a lot of opportunity, and I think debt will become a more useful instrument in time to come. Right. We work quite closely with a lot of debt-giving institutions to actually lend money to startups versus using it.
What are the pros and cons between the current model that you operate in and the other model that you suggest?
Well, you know, in the end of the day, it's like all of this is just the way money moves, right? And so the way I look at it for pros and cons is that it's just this sequence of time right now. Some companies, they actually benefit a lot from using debt. Some companies, they have good cash flows, so why dilute your company? Your cash flow is so good, right? You should just get that. Right, and so I think that that's why in Singapore, folks like Temasek has this arm called Innovent, DBS is DBS, Venture Debt. Those are folks that we work with to just get our companies to get debt. So I think that for some companies it's a very good deal, right? And then for some companies not so much.
Why is that so?
So some of because they may not be able to service those loans, or they are riskier a little bit. Some may not qualify. The downside of debt is that arguably, if you work with a venture capitalist at a later stage, someone who is so experienced and has a great network, there's a bit of smart money, some additional value add, right? Versus borrowing money from a bank or whatever, right? And so you just get cash, and so sometimes people want a little bit more than cash, right?
So on the VC side, there's advice that comes with the cash, but then on the bank side, what's the pros on that end?
Well, you don't have to dilute your company. That's a huge pro.
Right, the equities.
That's massive. So if you think you've got enough advice, then you're like, okay, I'm just gonna take money.
Fair. Yeah, can you tell me a bit more about because I'm just interested, probably a lot of people too. How many days was the event? Maybe go into a little bit of detail, and how is it being organized, the events? And I mean, the context you framed before was that it was kind of like a relaxed retreat when you have fun and games, but on the side you have small chats with people who are amazing and talented. To talk about then learn from them. Is that what it is?
I don't think it's overly impressive or memorable. I'll tell you that I took what I needed and that's it, and I went on with life. That's about it. In fact, I didn't really take much photos. I think I'll probably have 2 photos, and this was other people took. For me, the purpose of that was just an opportunity to meet with another creative individual and to understand somebody else's creative dynamic, right? And so for Branson's creative dynamic, it was very interesting to me. And I think that the other individuals on the island, some of them had different modalities to which they create, to which they pursue and live their businesses.
Anything you learned from them?
Well, I think that.
And it's fine if you don't want to talk about it. We can cut it out too.
Yeah, it's nothing too amazing lah. Nothing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's oh my god, I know so much. It's just that I think maybe I've got limited memory space or whatnot, right? So I just delete all these unused files or something, right? And then I just took what I needed. Yeah, that's about it. I think it's totally interesting. Yeah. We just hung out. It's very unstructured. You just land and then you just hang out. And
there's no here's your itinerary.
No, you just don't know what's gonna happen next. It's some Survivor Island shit. You just walk around randomly. I know someone popped on a karaoke machine, and then on the last, when I was about to leave, I broke open into James Brown. I feel good. I got you. So I gave them a bit of my James Brown, and then they were pretty shocked right? A little Chinese Malaysian kid actually do that.
The reason why I ask this is also to see if there's any similarity between what Chris Saka is doing over on his place at Reno, where his story is that he was taking too many coffee meetings in SF, and then he's like, well, I'm gonna go offenses. I'm gonna buy a house damn nice over somewhere remote, and then invite people up to the house, and that becomes an attraction point. So I wonder if there's some similarities between Necker Island and what Chris is doing.
I think people just end up having different places for different reasons. Maybe somebody. I have no idea. Right. Actually, I have zero idea. But I do think Chris Saka. I also find Chris Saka interesting. I think he always does things which are slightly different, and then cowboy shirts and everything. I always find him more interesting. Out of all VCs, I find him I follow what I just want to see what he's doing. Because I think he's quite interesting.
So we're gonna jump back in time, Memento style over here, to the time where you're starting Project Bazooka.
Okay.
And to jog our memory, I'm gonna just read a paragraph from one of your old blog posts.
Oh man, shit.
A year, press coverage, and 8 gigs later, we're still mucking around with our bazookas, thinking that we can help save the music scene or help the music scene. Have we done any good? Why do I spend my free time working on Bazooka in the first place? What the hell is Project Bazooka supposed to be? So perhaps you could paint us a picture. How old were you then? Where were you? What were you doing? And most importantly, what is Project Bazooka and how did it came to be?
Yeah. So, out of all the things which actually worked and then succeeded in a commercial sense, there's just thousands of things that I've attempted right, which didn't result in a commercial success. Do I think they were failures? I don't see it that way. I think that this one was one of the things I was very proud of, because I think what Project Bazooka was at the time was just a project name that I used for me and my friend who was a management consultant at Accenture at the time, but he quit to become a music producer. His name's Yuri Wong. So it's one of my earlier businesses, right, which wasn't really a business. But what we did was that we organized gigs. So we just sought out indie bands from far away lands outside of the city and bring them into an urban setting at urban places, and then got beer sponsors and just organized gigs. I think at the time, I've always loved music. I still do, and I think that I saw that there was just such an immense shift in the music industry, but I didn't know where the music industry was going to evolve to. Like the day I bought my last CDs, I didn't know they would be my last CDs. So I bought them from Amoeba Records in San Francisco. I bought a bunch, and then I took it back.
OG.
Yeah, and then I didn't know that I would not buy CDs from then on. I didn't know, right? So I think the change happened quite quickly at the time, and for myself, who's a fan of business and fan of music, I was very curious about what would happen. And then so I thought that, okay, there's this theory at the time, I think it still reigns true in some way, where you have the rise of everybody else, as in, it's not just a few big stars, the long tail of artists actually get to make a buck, but they make a buck in smaller ways, they have to busk, So there's some kind of general theories of where I was headed. So I wanted to dabble, right? I just wanted to see what was going on, right? So that's where Yuri and I reached out to a lot of other artists and tried to popularize other artists. We're quite pleased, I'll tell you, so we ended up organizing about 80 over gigs, in that span of like a year and a half. I had fun designing my own gig posters, so I think it's a really good environment for me to exercise my ideas, to make it real. So we just made like a side income over a couple of months. We had other things we were doing, but we always wanted it to be something more. But I also learned that I think that Yuri and I, we are very, very good friends even till today, but I think none of us really treated it as a business. It was like a project. Right. It was never like a committed business.
And what was it that you hoped to be? And I mean, it seems like also both of you have different directions of what this is.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be an opportunity for us to explore. So for us, we just wanted to just lean into the industry and just really see where the gaps are. So, so we explored, and we had many, 80 of a successful gig, a lot of sponsor money, a lot of side income, but, it lived up what it was meant to be, I think, which was just a little experiment. And then a lot of other businesses, you went, that's an interesting idea, let's lean into it, let's build it, maybe in the same way you built Sage and all that, you've got an idea, you lean into it, and then if you want to lean more into it, you do, right? And then if you don't, then you just lean back, and that's it, right? So this is one of the lean back ones.
How old were you then, and how would you describe yourself?
Oh, I don't remember how old I was. I think I was 21.
After Berkeley?
Yeah, it was when I came back to KL. But I'll tell you what it was.
Did you have the reverse culture shock then?
Oh yeah. I'll talk about that in a sec. But I'll tell you what was big wins from Bazooka. So I had this band I wanted to place in this mainstream place, right? And this band primarily sang in Malay. Okay, and the founder of the band, the lead singer, his name is Noh. He's the leader of the band, right? So I told Noh, I said, Noh, this venue here is willing to pay some good money, man. It's going to be I forgot what it was, $2,000, $3,000 ringgits, right? For this one gig, right? And it's going to be great. It's a great venue, new audience, mainstream. They have one caveat. You have to sing in English.
It's a Malay band, but okay.
Because they don't want to be seen as a Malay place, right? It's like an urban place, so they want English bands. So they like you, but can you sing in English? Whew, he says you can pay me any amount of money, I'm not going to sing in English. My music's in Malay. That's it. He didn't want to play, right? Then I said, dude, that's the right answer, man. I'm so glad you stuck to your thing. So they went on to become one of the big bands in Malaysia. They're called Hujan. And then they went to tour Indonesia. They broke Indonesia for a little bit. He married Ms. Nina, which is another super OG rapper in Malaysia, some MC. And I don't know what he's doing now. I think I had a call with him 2 or 3 years ago. I think, he had a jam studio or something. But But anyways, he eventually became really big, and I really admired that he stuck to what was true to him at the time. So I think to me that's a big win. And they also forged a very close friendship with me and Yuri that last till today, and he's still one of my closest friends. So yeah, overall I think that's a really, really big win. Yeah. Maybe not financially so, but.
But did you want it to be?
Other dimensions.
Did you want it to be?
Secretly, yes. I thought it could become something big, but it didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have a lot of things going on then. I
had a lot of projects. I had a ton of projects. Like Bazooka's only one project. I had a ton of projects.
Maybe I can riff on a couple of names, and then you can go ahead and fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
So there's the Chichak.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right.
Yep.
Web Watch.
Yep.
Project Branch Out.
I gotta strip my blog off the web, man. This guy's
Linked List.
Okay.
Maybe you want to fill in the blanks for.
Yeah, there's a couple. I don't like. Is it really very interesting to you? Like, what interests you about those projects?
I think the rate of you starting new projects and the difference of each project of like it seems to me that it's like solving your own problems, right? In a certain way. I'm not sure what kind of problems you're solving. Is it I can speak for at least maybe branch out per se of like connecting with people. I don't know about Chichak so much.
Okay, so there's this quote I kind of like. I kind of subscribe to a little bit. It's from Twelfth Night. It's a Shakespeare quote, and I'm probably butchering it. Fear not greatness. Some people are born into greatness. Some people go out and acquire greatness, and some people have greatness thrust upon them. So a lot of things that I get involved with, I'm sure a lot of us get involved with over here. We sometimes we whether you're born into it, it's just a function of your environment, your schooling, right? Number two, and people you hang out with. Number two is that some people go out and acquire it. So you just have this idea, you go out and you make it happen. Third one, which is what I find quite interesting, is when it gets thrust upon you. So some of the projects is that other people say, Khailee, I need some help. Can you help me with this one time? You help them once. So I used to be a developer, right? So I learned how to code when I was 15. I built front end, back end a little bit, but not, and then so I just like a web project, IT guy, right? So the Chichak, the main driver was this lady called Teng Po Si, who's like super interesting person that you should probably get on the show at some point. She was nominated for an Emmy recently. She's a Malaysian girl from Penang, yeah. She is a filmmaker. But she does it in news settings, right? So it's Al Jazeera, she was Vice, and a lot of things. Yeah, a very interesting lady. Now she was studying in San Francisco State at the time doing journalism, and then she had this idea that maybe all these foreign Malaysians who had something to say about politics, that the government won't throw us in jail, so we should, because we're overseas, so let's just say what we want in this site, right? But curated, so it's not about hatred or attack, it's just a platform for discussion. So it's like an online magazine, blog, whatever you call it, right? And then so they would have
mission from the people.
Yes, but they would have a group of journalists. So that's her and others, and they are like journalists, right? Journalist types. And they would help edit and try to balance people's views. So people who are bloggers can submit their blog posts on the social political topic, and they would curate it, normalize it, put all the sourcing so it becomes pro in a way, right? Like up it a bit right? And then so that's what the Chichak was. So Chichak stands for lizard, house lizard, because it just makes noise, it's your home.
How did she found you?
She needs some help with the IT, right? To kind of wire it up. And then I was like, okay, I'll help you out. And she said, hey, Khailee, why don't you join me? Let's just make this into something cool. Then for me, it's like, okay, let's just. Is
it like a personal family friend or?
She was like, we shared a class in college, and then she used to just kick my ass because she like I didn't do my work or something, and so or I was late for something, right? And so she used to whoop my ass, and then so she came back, so I got in a round 2 of ass whooping, and then so then when doing the Chichak, it was good. That was a massive success to me because a lot of the Malaysians who spoke out to write about different topics at the time, this was at a time where you can literally be thrown somewhere by saying the wrong thing in Malaysia. It's a very different Malaysia versus Malaysia was right now. Very different time. And we had I think it was a couple hundred articles, I think probably about 400 plus articles that were produced. Many of them actually went into mainstream newspapers. And a lot of the individuals who would write for it, I keep bumping into them these days. I just bumped into one dude. He became like special officer to the finance minister, and then there's other ones doing this in politics, the other ones in business doing that. It's like they all went on to be very, like, not all of them, because I don't know about some of them, but a lot of them went on to do very interesting things with their lives, and some of them at different levels of success. And so I thought it was like a good breeding ground for a few of us to really like just challenge our thinking a little bit. And back then there was a time where people used to comment on blog posts, right? So we just like hundreds of comments and people actually discussing shit, you know. It was really good. We had one writer was thrown in a lockup for 4 nights, and it probably isn't associated with his writing. And then everyone just decided not to write for the Chichak anymore. And it's almost like, oh, can you please take my profile down? And then it was, you know, so it just like, yeah, just out of fear, we just like destroyed ourselves. Just like, yeah, you know. But that's super successful project. Like, it was wonderful, and who would have thought that I'd find myself back in media again?
Correct. So Chicha, right? Like, what is the sequence of like, you know, project after you came back to KL?
Okay. So allow me to chapterize it, lah. Yeah. Okay. So, spent whole life growing up in Malaysia, 0 to 22, perhaps, right? Actually 0 to like 30 or something, right? So, but anyways, grew up in Malaysia. Age 15 to, I would say, age 20, 21. This was a lot of projects and a lot of freelancing, right? And just freelancing primarily as primary mode. Went to Sydney and then the US and then came back. And this period, while I was working in Mind Valley, a lot of different projects, a lot of different ideas, a lot of different web products. After Mind Valley, another 2 years of launching a lot of things that didn't work. Primarily, there was a research company that I ran. It's like an online panel. You know, you can pay people to answer surveys, essentially, right? And some other projects there. After that, then Says.com was born. And then Says.com succeeded.
No, and I really want to bring out the different projects that you have started, because on the front, people will look at you and be like, what's this guy, you know, what, 2 startups, and you know, he's like killing it, man. He's just like startup out of his backside, and then, you know.
Yeah.
So what are some of the projects that, you know, didn't succeed? And maybe you can care to share some.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a bit about the Chichak and how that became, and then it had a decent audience. You know, I think it was like a couple 100,000 unique views a month. At the time, it was like a big deal because the internet was smaller. You know, the Chichak came and went. Project Busa came and went. Bunchout was an app that I created while at Mind Valley with Mind Valley. It was like, back then I was very enamored with Hot or Not. Right? You know, it's pre-Tinder days, like Hot or Not, you know, and I was single, right? So single people always build dating apps, right? Solve their own problem, especially if they're geeky like me, right? And so, what I was more interested in wasn't about meeting somebody. I just wanted to hang out with interesting people as a group. And so I thought I'd try to make some kind of group matchmaking thingy lah. That died a very quick death because I realized that the barriers of actually signing up a group is really high. Because imagine you wanted to join this site, right? You know, your friends may be pissed at you if you just took a photo of all of them and just sign up for them. You know what I mean? And so some people who wanted to sign up for the site, they went to go and talk to their friends. And then so instead of you, so that means the steps it takes for you to actually use the product was longer. It takes more time and there's more friction, right, for you actually to just jump onto something. Right. So,
but the people who jump on must be very interesting because, you know, if...
Yeah. There were some interesting folks, you know. But there's also a question of whether or not Mind Valley, who was funding it at the time, wanted to continue funding it or not. Right. Because there are a lot of competing ideas.
Because it's kind of like a studio, right, back then, Mind Valley is.
Yes. Back then it had more studio feels, you know. Blinklist was very successful. I would say like immensely successful. It was a social bookmarking site back in the Web 2.0 days. So you could save bookmarks and then you can see cloud tags, discover other sites which are similar to what other, you know. So with Blinklist, Delicious was the primary one, and Delicious was acquired by Yahoo for $20 million, which was a big amount of money at the time. And so, and after that happened, I think the rest of the social bookmarking sites, people just used Delicious more and more. And then eventually Blinklist lost resources within the Mind Valley architecture at the time, and then so they decided to focus on other projects. So I think that, I mean, if you want to know more failures and more things that came and went.
And I guess also those, I mean, one of my favorite questions to ask people is always like, you know, what are some of the apparent failure that later in life turn out to be useful lessons?
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of have a bit of a positivist view about that, you know, that's why I call them like projects that came and went, right? But they always left something behind. Those projects, like each of them, like gave me an experience set that I could actually reuse. So for example, the Chichak gave me an experience set that I reused that says, to some degree, just understanding how people consume and share content and engage with content. With Project Bazooka for music, you know, I think that it had me deal with a lot of different kinds of people and a lot of enterprise sales, which I had to get sponsors, right? Which later on it says it was very useful because I had to engage brands to actually pay for shit, right? So at least some context. So I think every one of these projects left something behind. But why I think it's like quite interesting is that when we have a study of an entrepreneur or somebody who has succeeded, let's say for example Elon Musk or whatever, you know, like okay, on one hand there's this more obvious success, obvious financial success that they're known for. Then there are the things that they tried and didn't work. So who knows what kind of social bookmarking site he used to create? I have no idea, right? So he may or may not have had some stuff. But there's actually another pre-process behind that. That means before they even started anything, what are some of the side gigs they did? What are some of the part-time jobs they did? And what did they get involved in? So for me, it's like I'm a big fan of promoting the gig economy for people to just start doing something, right? Because whether or not they get a part-time job as a like sales promoter giving out flyers, or whether or not they decided to get an actual part-time job as a Starbucks barista or whatnot, there are these kind of it's just like a pre-stage where they kind of have hand-to-hand combat with the real world, so to speak, and try to deliver some skills to make some money, whatever that may be. Right. So I think that phase to me is also quite interesting. So the more folks we can get into that phase, I think then there's a natural funnel.
Why are you interested in that, and how did it?
Because the formal economy fails for a lot of people.
What do you mean by formal?
The formal economy, I'm talking about you get a degree, you get a job that takes care of you. Yeah, so that has failed a lot of people already, so it's quite well known already. And it also, it continues to not include a lot of people who, even though you get a degree, like it's just like no guarantee, you know what I mean? And the promise today, even though you get a job, may not be something overly exciting either for a lot of people. Oh, yeah. And so, hence, what else is in the informal economy? So a lot of folks who go through doing a lot of different gigs, right? They tacitly will have the idea that, you know what, if I don't have a job, I can still do something and still make money. And then like, even if I get laid off, so like, I'm in a Grab 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and then MAS, the Malaysia Airlines, lays off a whole bunch of people. So the next couple of Grab rides I have are all MAS, ex-MAS folks, you know? So they have income because they got a gig, right? If not, they'd be just like eating dirt or whatever, right? So they got a gig. So I think that the gig economy is a good kind of economic base. When the formal economy fails, the whole gig economy, the whole informal economy remains. I have had like personal assistants who had friends. They are also personal assistants who sell coconut oil on Instagram at night, and everyone sells cupcakes, they're baking, you know. So there's a lot of folks just doing a lot of these side gigs. You know, my current runner, his name is Shukri, like he's a big inspiration of mine. He was doing ACCA, the accounting thingy, and he was like, oh man, I gotta pay these fees, number one. Number two is that I keep failing, right? And every time I fail, I have to retake the exam, it costs money. Right? Number three is that my friends who graduated, they either do not have a job or they're paid like shit. And for me to pay for my fees and pay for my younger brother, I'm using GoGet, which is like a TaskRabbit kind of company. Okay. So you just like dispatch odd jobs. So he's an odd jobs marketplace. He's making 4,000 ringgit. His buddies who graduated make 2,000 ringgit. He's earning double the money and he's just doing odd jobs. He's like, why am I gonna do accounting and not get an accounting job, or maybe get an accounting job? So he says, okay, you know what? I'm just not going to go to school anymore. So he just opts out of school, never completes his ACCA, and he's just doing these odd jobs. But he doesn't stop there. He's doing these odd jobs, and he's like, man, I gotta make more money. I gotta learn, man. Like, what do rich people do, right? And then so he's just like online, Googling around. He says, okay, you know what? I'm gonna just like, I read some courses on value investing, Warren Buffett. So he's got 2 years, he's had a stock portfolio already. He's just buying blue chip, he's collecting dividends, right? So he's taking the money he has from odd job, he's making a stock portfolio. Freak, I haven't had stocks till I was like, God knows what age, right? He's doing it at age like 20. Now, which I don't know if is legally possible, but he has done it. And then the third one is that he learned internet marketing. And then he's like, oh, what's up these days? Avengers, okay, Marvel, a lot of these movies. So he decides to go on Taobao and he finds like selling masks. And he's gone to Carousel to go and test price to see how much people are willing to pay for the masks. And then he realizes people actually want to buy these superhero masks. He buys like a bunch from Taobao and then he sells it on Instagram video ads and Carousel. And so I said, yeah, fully loaded customer acquisition cost. After you pay all your costs with all your advertising, how much margins do you make on your masks? He said 200%. Number two, I said, how much have you made so far? 2,000 ringgits with my superhero mask experiment. So what has Shukri gained? Yes, he's got a stock portfolio. Yes, he's doing his odd jobs. Yes, he sold some masks. But what has he gained? No matter what happens to the economy, right, he's going to Google a way to make money, you know. That to me is immensely inspiring. And I hope people just remember that as a core power, superpower that everybody has. And people are forgetting. They say, oh, I don't have a job. I have a friend just came out from, she came out and she's like, oh, you know, and she's very qualified in the work that she had. Yeah. She's like, oh, I'm looking for something, but I heard the job market now very soft. Who gives a shit about the job market, soft or hard? You know what I mean, some people care about things whether they're soft or hard, but you know, as far as the job market is concerned, like, you know, if you know your worth, right, and you're a true hustler, right, you're gonna find some way to make some money. Right. And to me, like, that body of conversation is sorely lacking in this world. Everyone's looking Elon Musk, then they look at themselves, shit, man, I can never be Elon Musk. Screw this. I'm gonna sit back and be depressed. You know what? I'm gonna grab another beer. Screw Elon Musk, man. He's awesome. I love him, right? But there are a lot of people who they can start at the start of the funnel and roll in. We've just realized.
Which is what you did.
Absolutely, and that's what so many entrepreneurs did. Like, we just did a study of like how many entrepreneurs with moderate success like myself, right, or minimal success like myself. You just go look, what have they done in the past that gave them the confidence that you can use your ideas and turn them into real things. That's what I think is an important conversation.
What have, you know, your friend that you brought up that, you know, loses a job, right? What so far has been the best way for you to convince them or tell them, show them a different way, or, you know, allow them to just try different things? Or have you actually successfully persuaded her that, hey, here's this other thing that you can try? It might not pay as much, but hey, why don't you try out?
You know, like I think for some people, they may find a lot of joy and success in the corporate world. And I've got a ton of friends who are just like acing it now, right? And so I think that's amazing, right? And so I think for her specifically, if she can find a gig that she likes to do, which her motivations are more idealistic, if she can find a work that makes her happy, just roll with it. If not, she can join a startup or join some NGO or something that's starting up. Yep. She can join a large company. Whatever options that she may look into, as long as she doesn't overemphasize on the formal job market as the only choice, I think that gives her options, and that options gives her power and freedom.
No, right? For sure. What I'm saying is that, like, how do you change her mind?
Yeah, so for me, like, I think that, like, for me, like, I don't want to get too hands-on in people's lives, you know what I mean? In a sense, you know, so, like, specifically, if you just zoom in on her per se, right? I have a ton of interesting companies that will hire somebody like her, so I just shot her a bunch of ideas, right? To say, hey, look, I've got this company I invested in, they're doing crowdfunding in Indonesia, literally $3 million a month going into crowdfunding for charities, right? Doing amazing stuff, right? Social causes, you know, they may be expanding in Malaysia. Check this out. So it's kind of like that, right? So I think I'm very fortunate to be in a marketplace of ideas so I can introduce her interesting companies. But I think for a lot of folks, like, not so. But her example is not directly related to what I think is important, where through your line of questioning, which is about what are the failed, you wanted to know about the failed experiments and what did I learn from them, the failed businesses, so to speak, right? The less known ones. And what I wanted to share with you is that I think that there's a body of part-time gigs that was super fun. So I'll start to tell you a few of them. So the first one was actually a society. Do you know, like, the Lions Club or the Interact?
No,
Rotary Club?
Rotary Club.
That kind of thing lah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are like two similar organizations. One's called Lions, one's called Rotary.
Okay.
And then they have these student ones. One's called Interact and one's called Leo. Right? Like, super weird, but apparently it's a thing. It's like Scouts or something. So in my school, it happened to have both Interact and Leo. So I joined this club at the time, and
What do you do in the club?
I have no idea. Like, because you're forced to join a club, you have to like choose something, right? So I was like, oh man, I just want to choose something that I don't have to go to, and I still get to mark my attendance, right? I was like, and then so like me and a friend decided to join Leo Club because we think we just think we'll just meet some new people. Okay, let's just join Leo Club. Okay, so we went, and I was given a task to fundraise. And so they sold these really geeky badges. And then you'd wear this vest, and then they'll wear these badges on this vest. Weird, but that was the thing at the time. It probably still is in some places in the world. Anyways, so they had these badges on the thing. And they said, okay, Khailee, you got to raise money by making these badges. So I was like, oh man, okay, how do I raise maximum money with minimal amount of work? And so I started to look into this whole badge thing. And then I thought that, if we can make a badge that looks expensive, but is not expensive, that's probably the way to go. So I drew up multiple designs. I was like, okay, I have a badge of a lion. I draw the lion. Then there's like chains dangling from lion and everything. So you walk around, it goes clang, 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 clang. You know, it's like, so I'm thinking, okay. So I started negotiating with all these badge makers. And we land on a badge design, which had just immensely high margins. It looked so weird. Everybody wanted to buy it. And it was my first taste of like, wow, I drew something on paper and pen. And it's like real. And this money is like, it's not mine. It's like the society's money.
Did you like actually like take the design to production and then mass production?
Yeah.
So you went through
like there were 200 pieces lah that we.
Right. Still, like not like 20, right? Not like yeah. Wow.
You're 15, 16 years old, and then you do something like that, and you're like, wow, this is kind of cool, right? It makes you want to do more. Then they had a fundraiser to organize like this charity concert event, which I did, and then so it netted 14,000 ringgit in revenue, which Sing dollars, I don't know how much it is, divided by 3, I guess, 2, 3, I don't know what it is anymore. Yeah, so, and then like it profited 11,700 ringgit. So I still remember it because I was like handling it lah, right? So it's very high profit margin for an event like that outbeat any of the other events at the time in that school. So much so that the school principal was like, you're not supposed to have that much money given to me, right? And so they took it from our society and they put curtains for the teachers or something. So but again, these early experiences, I feel like it rewires your brain to see the world as malleable, as creatable, inventable, right? Where you can have an idea, you can just rally enough people, and then it becomes a real thing. And so with that, complemented by a lot of side gigs, you know, I worked in a factory making playground equipment. I was boxing. I lasted 2 days, and I thought I was going to die from poisoning of metal dust. Okay, I sold inkjet cartridges. Very humbling experience there, because like my
door to door.
No, at a PC fair.
Oh, okay.
Back then they had PC fairs, right? You remember? Yeah, we buy the CPU. Oh, did you have a? Oh, okay. Well. Yeah, so then it sold inkjet cartridges, you know, valuable lessons there, because I was one of the lowest performing salespeople.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was the one in front, like, hey, inkjet cartridge, you're making noise. But the serious buyers, right, they don't want to talk to me, man. I'm the annoying person. They went straight to the back of the shop. Then one friend of mine, he just didn't do shit. He just sat at the back of the shop because he saw the ballers who bought a lot, right? He just went straight to the back of the shop. He just sat there, he didn't say anything. Because they know what they want. And just asked, well, how much is it? Oh, this one, no. So he got the major jackpot, the major sales bonus.
It's by commission, right?
Yes, he did the least work, you know. Super powerful lesson, right? Yep. I worked as a receptionist at a night school for real estate agents.
Okay.
And so I had a super cool lesson there too. What happened was that, so I sat there. My job was to open the door, sit in the front desk, collect all the payments that issue them the receipts, collect the checks. Nobody gave me cash, you know. Then I issue the receipts. And then when they leave, so I sit there while they're having their classes and I'll just study for my government exams. And then after they leave, then I lock up and then I go. That was my job, simple job.
Right.
As I sat there, I started to realize, right, that the entire real estate night school thing, there were these small things which are broken in the place. Like the toilet was dripping. So it didn't drive me crazy, but I thought that, oh, okay, well, it's leaking. The cupboards, as I filed things and put things in the cupboards, it was loose. You know when the cupboard is like used a lot and the screw is loose, The whiteboards were a bit dirty, and then you know the whiteboard duster, if you dust too much, it becomes very black. The more you dust, the blacker it gets. You got to fill in the markers, you're empty. So I decided, you know what, I came one day with a spanner, with a screwdriver, with a toolbox, fix that shit up, man. I just fixed it up. I open up the toilet thing, tighten the nut. You know the nut, right? And then so it doesn't drip. Just fixing everything up. Okay, that's it. Went on with my life. One day, the owner of the school, who rarely makes an appearance, and what I was told was a very fierce person. She wasn't that fierce. Quite stern, but wasn't fierce. She called me in the office and said, hey, I just want to talk to you. And so she noticed that things were all fixed up and she didn't know who did it. She wouldn't know if it was me. She's like, who fixed everything up? Right? And I thought, I fixed it up. And she said, oh, okay. And they said, oh, so what do you do? She started talking to me. I said, oh, yeah, I'm just studying for my exams, man. I'm just like doing this and that, you know? Then she started telling me about her business plans, everything. Yeah, we had a really cool conversation, you know? That was it lah. I don't know whatever happened.
What do you learn from that?
No, I just learned that I think I earn a right to talk to her lah. I'm a part-time clerk, right? I'm a receptionist.
No, but it's also interesting.
I had a chance to have a conversation with a business owner at a young age.
Right? You know, from as an employer point of view, that you went out of your job scope and do what needs to be done without being told, which is like huge.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't wait for permission.
Yep.
You just do it.
Yep. I mean, you can definitely say that. Some of it is a bit parental. My dad likes fixing things in the house. He's many a time taught me how to do it, right? So it just seemed natural if something is broken that you fix it. It just seemed natural to me. It didn't annoy me, that's the thing, because I lived with that noise, that dripping noise for a few weeks already, you know what I mean? So, you know, if it that annoyed me, I'm sure I would have fixed it. I don't know, it just seemed natural to me. If something kind of sucks, you fix it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah. So it's interesting because I have a little bit of that mentality too, you know, when you go out. And when you go to school or when you go to work, there was a lot, I mean, especially in the army in Singapore, there's a lot of like, this is not my job. You know, this is you. And no, none of my business. But like the truth is, like, hey, your office outside, like dirty lah. Could you, like clean it up a bit? You know, the guy's gonna come in the morning, this is full right now. Could you just go clear it? While waiting. So I don't know where that came from, or like, you know, is it a systemic thing or the cultural thing?
Yeah, you know, I see a lot of value in that, and then I learn a lot from the companies that today I'm so fortunate to get to work with, right? So like Grab, for example, they have a saying, your problem is my problem. It's very like Singaporean, Malaysian way to talk about collaboration and proactiveness versus saying collaboration, right? It's like, your problem is my problem. So it's really cool, right? Yeah. So I mean, I like that. I think that's really cool. At the same time, I'm also reading a few books now, which are kind of military inspired, right? So Extreme Ownership with, of course, the Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leaf, his last name, I don't remember. So Extreme Ownership, and then there's Team of Teams. Yeah. And then, yeah, so when I kind of weave in tacitly into the body of the work, you brought up the Singapore Army. I think there's a place in time where if everyone is trying to fix each other's shit all the time, right, it's going to total chaos, right? And then there's a place in time where if ISIS and Al-Qaeda is doing that, and then they're more adaptive, because that's essentially what Team of Teams is about, right? They found that their enemy is more adaptive and more led by the ground up versus top down, you see. Right? And they had to adapt to that, right? So I think there is a place and time for a certain kind of kung fu lah, right? And so.
And do you think you
so I don't want to over glorify that, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, but the art is, I mean, the saying goes, right? It's like you can talk to some entrepreneur and get some advice, but maybe how you apply it, when you apply it, which to ignore, which to apply, that makes all the difference.
That's the finesse lah. That's the fun lah. That's the fun.
Because if there's one set of rules, then like no one will pay to listen to you, right?
It's the same set of rules. Like I don't think that's fun. Yeah, I don't think that's fun. I think you draw different cards through life, and then you look at your hand and you choose which to play, right? And I think that's fun.
What from your entire life, you know, what are the things you have been proudest? When are you proudest of yourself?
Oh, I got a lot of things I'm proud of. Not because I'm a proud person, but like I'm just super grateful. I just think they're awesome things, right? I'm proud of Shukri, my runner, right? Like I think that I don't know how he fell into our lives, because we use GoGet and you get different runner. We use these kind of like on-demand task stuff. You just get different runners each time. You know, he's so young, he's that age, like he's just like helping his brother, you know, put his brother through school, he's hustling like that. It's just like, it's really inspiring to me. So I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud. So I actually gave him like a fixed contract with 500 to be our dedicated runner. So I pay him like a fixed base fee, so it's less volatility in his income. Probably overpaying him, but you know, I just want to, right? I got him a motorcycle because he had mentioned to me that he was getting a motorcycle. He's giving his motorcycle to his brother, is saving up for a motorcycle. I said, dude, like, I'll buy you a motorcycle. Like, I'll still own it, but you can use it. I had a second reason why I wanted to do it, because I got a number plate, 500 VC. But it had to sit on a vehicle. So I sat on a vehicle. So he's riding around with this motorcycle called 500 VC on it. Super cool. Anyways, I'm proud of him. You know, I think he's my adopted child. Like, I'm proud of this guy. What else am I proud? I'm super proud of my team at says.com. So back then when we built that news company, we were again just sketching on a whiteboard, literally just say, hey, you know, how do we make news people actually read? A handful of years, literally like 2 years plus later, we had just had more traffic than everybody else in the country. And we're just a bunch of kids, man. Like, none of us were nearly 30 years old. Like, how did that happen? That's amazing. And then when we listed the company, you know, like I had one of my staff bought the mom a house because they got stock options and stuff, right? And then, so some of them decided to upgrade their lives, change cars, someone bought a watch, you know, which I don't think are great investments. But, you know, like, for all in all, they had a sum of money that at least compensated their opportunity cost from a corporate career. I hired them with a promise that this will be an adventure that will pay off. And then I made good on that promise to some degree. Yeah. And when I meet them, and when I play board games with them and hang out with them, and I see their joy and the fact that it's been years since that company has been listed and then acquired by Media Prima, which is the kind of like the SPH of Malaysia, right? They still work together and they still enjoy working with each other. That's the difference between building a cult and a culture. I don't need to be there, you know. They love it and they know what the culture that we built stands for, and the people do enjoy working there. So I'm super proud of that. Crazy proud of my entrepreneurs that I invest in. You know, like each and every one of them, even those that succeed, fail, you know, some of them really came out of nowhere, you know. Bukalapak, for example, they're worth about $3.5 billion now. When you invested in them, you know, like, up against all odds, man. Tokopedia just got 100 mil from SoftBank. You know, Alibaba and SoftBank just cashing in at a competitor, you know, and then all the other VCs pulled out of Bukalapak, like didn't want to invest in Bukalapak. Not pulled out, they didn't want to invest because Tokopedia, the competitor, just had so much money. Yep. But, you know, we just stuck through it, you know, and then they competed in a very different way. The whole Bukalapak story is super inspirational, worth a whole other conversation, but just to see those folks, right, just get through things. If people ask me, Khailee, why do you have so much energy? I said, you just look at the kind of people I meet every damn day. How can you not have energy? Like, these people are just like everyday superheroes, you know. Okay, last one I'll say, last inspiration, very proud. My dog. I just made an Instagram post about it. Not fully my dog, but kind of my dog. When I got together with Eliza, my now wife, she brought 2 dogs with her. Both are rescue dogs. So one, like, the hind legs can't be used anymore, and then one is blind and deaf. Both are 15 years old. So the blind and deaf one, this dog makes the effort to go out and pee, despite being blind and deaf. His smell also, I'm very suspicious, he's got a very good sense of smell. So he walks around, he bumps into items consistently, holding his pee all the way till he finds the opening for him to go out to the area, balcony area, to pee. Failing which, if you can't find that, he's going to cup you all the way, bumping into things, into the toilet to pee. Hero, man. Every time he finds his food and pees, he's a damn hero. He's a winner against all odds. Super inspirational. Very proud of the guy. Gizmo is his name. The story that I tell about sales, actually that had a lot to do with it. So, I know
you said this story a million times.
I'll do a quick one.
Short, yeah.
I'll do a quick one now, right? So, when I was with the first real serious business I did with my business partner at the time, Joel, is that we were supposed to, he's supposed to be the sales guy, I'm the tech guy. That's how it came to be. But then there was one really big project where I was supposed to come in to answer some questions related to the sales process. When we walked out of that conversation, Joel asked me, "Hey Khailee, did you think that we got the deal or not? What do you think about the meeting?" I said, "Oh man, it's so good. We totally nailed it. We're gonna make this." And he's like, "No, we lost it." I was like, "Whoa." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And then he started to break it down, why people are asking certain things and what went on. So I got played lah, basically, right? So like there was a camp that didn't want the solution, so they're asking questions for me to make it sound like our proposition was redundant.
Could you like expand on that part? Because that's like really interesting for people who are doing enterprise sales.
Yeah. I mean, like, because when you work with a larger organization, there are different stakeholders, and the one camp was championing for our solution, but there's another camp who probably want to just preserve the existing solution, and so the folks from the existing solution were asking questions to make it seem that our solution is redundant.
How did they do that?
I don't remember the details, but I just answered the questions truthfully and straightforwardly, as any good programmer would, any good technical person would, right? I just did it like that. And true to what Joel predicted, we lost the deal. We drove back, and I was shaken by my first big sales experience in a sense, and he was also quiet.
And paint us a picture of what was at stake. You know, how much money was it?
It was the biggest project we had at the time. It's like probably $250,000 ringgit. But at that stage of business, it was like it would have been a make or break thing. It's like the big break. Yeah, I was just quiet. It was awkward, and I just felt so much emotions, and I just broke down and cried. So I was like crying, and Joel was like, he couldn't deal with it. He's like, "Shit, man, my business partner is like breaking down over here. What am I gonna do?" He's like, "Hey, he just didn't touch me, you know." He's like, then he just like turned on the radio. He's like, awkward. And then so like, I was just like crying my heart out. And after I'm done, then Joel's like, "Hey, look, if you don't want to do any more sales, it's okay, man. You just don't need to come for any sales meeting. That's cool, you know, I'll do it." Then we went to eat some chicken rice and some shit cha. Back then I wasn't vegan yet, right? So I ate chicken rice, and then we had some Chinese iced tea. And then we're just quiet still. And then Joe was like, "Look, but if you do want to go for some sales meetings, you know, let's try some out, and it's okay, you know, maybe you can learn how to do sales." So I went back that night. I went to Google, like any good technical person would, and most people do now, how to do sales, right? And then as I started reading, a lot of it was like, it didn't resonate with me.
Why?
I don't know. It just felt a bit like manipulative almost. You know, like there was something about it that I didn't feel resonant with for some reason. Then I found a blogger. Back then, he was a very famous software blogger. Coincidentally, his name's also Joel. So Joel on software. So I think his company created Trello later on, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Anyways, he wrote about sales and technical sales. And he talked about how a lot of technical people don't like to do sales. And he said actually the kind of sales that he believes in, because he was forced to do sales, was that the best kind of sales is not really that you're trying to like convince someone or manipulate someone. Is that you're trying to share what you believe in. And if you're just sharing what you believe in, that is more resonant with like a technical mind, because you believe this is true, you just share. So of course I shared what I believed in at that meeting, and it sucked, right? But for the most part, right, like maybe I can use that as a base to practice. And when I started doing that, because I believe in a lot of things, I'm very excited about certain ideas, and especially if there is something that's correct and something that actually works better than everything else, right? Like I get passionate about it. And then so that made it very easy. So that year alone, we racked up more than R1 million worth of sales of a product that we created as a way of monetizing news, you know, and primarily I was leading a lot of those sales conversations.
I don't know, is there something to also expand on like what, because you were sharing truthfully in that meeting. Yeah. And then after that, what do you learn that you racked up this?
Okay, so we talk about like transiting to extroversion, right? Okay? So the first body of it is I'm sharing something I truly, truly believe in. And when I do, it's like you vibrate on a cellular level. It's true to you, right? So you move. And so your words move people, right? So that's what I started to see. You know, I'd go into some meetings with media agencies, ad agencies, and say, "Hey, you know," and then the social media, that's not how you do it. You're supposed to do it like this. And then they just never seen anyone get so excited about their work before. They're like, "Wow, we got to listen to this person," right? And so I think there's something quite good about this. But the next part of it was equally the mirror of it. It's also, how do I really empathize, you know? and be really curious about what their worldview is. For enterprise sales, it's so critical. I'm not an enterprise sales guru, and I sure as hell like I wouldn't want to spend my life I don't want that to be my main body of work, but I had to do it. And so I realized really quickly is that I had to really understand what the issue is, so that I'll know whether there's a fit. And if there's no fit, at least I don't waste my time. So that takes incredible empathy, incredible curiosity to actually ask questions and lean in and read between the lines. So me sharing what I believe in and me trying to really listen to somebody else, they were both very important in this process of sales, but also the process of getting to know people and networking with folks. When I engage in a conversation, like my first conversation with a lot of people, like, a big part of it, I'm just like brain dumping things I believed in. Right? If you remember, I believe in this is cool, these ideas I'm really excited about. Then I was really curious about you. It's like, okay, then you want to do your beatboxing, you want to be like top of this and this and that. I'm just curious about your life, right? So I want to really see why you're doing all of this, right? Like you could be doing other things time, but you chose to do this. So this duality of this sharing what you believe in, but really listening to what other people feel, like that releases you from any preconceived ideas of, are you a good networker? What do you say at a party? What do you want to say to somebody on stage? Are you an introvert? Are you extrovert? You could take that concept, you throw it away, because this new concept is like, would help you with any of those situations.
That's so good.
Anyone who wants to draft a speech, to make a presentation to 1,000 people or whatnot, you can use this. If you can lean into your audience beforehand and really try to get an idea of who they are and what they care about, and if you can just find something you believe in and just talk about that, you'll be good. Most people who most people who attempt mediocre presentations, and I know nobody really attempts that, but but end up with mediocre presentations, is because number one, either they don't really map what the audience cares about, or number two is that they're sharing shit. In 1978, this happened to Google, and then well, you know what? You didn't work at Google then. You know what I mean? So what are you talking about, right? So you can reference a story and reference quotes, and that's what I do. That's what a lot of people do. But it's a bit different when you experience it and you believe in it fully. And if you're moved, other people will be moved. Any introvert can do that.
No, I think like perfect segue, to the next question where I was looking at a couple of your presentation, and what really stood out to me, and I guess now we know the secret sauce, is that despite not being very fluent and with the command of language, your presentation still move people.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, I mean, just listening to the crowd, right? I mean, there's claps, and you can see the questions coming in. So, did it start out that way, or what's the evolution of that to now that you got these two things, and how do you prep for that? Maybe that's the part B, right?
Well, a lot of people, I guess, it didn't really come naturally to me. It was just, I think, nervousness is always there, and so I compensate by preparing. And so what a lot of people think, I just rock up and naturally do it. No, I prepare like hell. For Facebook's F8 conference, people speak, there's only 3 outside speakers, and then I supposed to represent a pretty large topic. I camped in a hotel room for 48 hours. I didn't leave. All I did was rehearse, script and rescript, record myself, and just redo it.
Can you tell me the process of how you do that?
I script word for word. All my speeches are script word for word. If you look at my iPhone or my notes app or whatever, you can see word for word. If I don't have time for it, because it's suddenly somebody asks me, put me on the spot to go and speak, then I'll just have some kind of key bullets, But what I would always script, apart from the key points, I'll script how it starts. I would always script how it starts, and I'll script how it ends. And then so at least there's a certain kind of general flow that goes throughout.
What's your framework of how you want to start the presentation? And
I think there's a fair bit of intuition in this, in the sense that I'll give you an example. We're doing a trip with investors in China, and someone couldn't give the opening speech from my organization, and so they said, Khailee, you go give the opening, just give some opening remarks. Oh, but you need to do it in Chinese because they don't speak English. I was like, shit. So I went to Chinese school, right, for 6 years, right? So I speak some Mandarin, but basically I stopped Chinese school at age 12, and I didn't keep it up, right? So I've got this 12-year-old vocabulary. So I was like, damn it, look at the clock, 10 minutes more, I've got speech. Look at somebody, okay. How do you say entrepreneur in Chinese? 创业者. Okay. Wow, so is it an easier word? Okay. How do you say investor in Chinese? 投资人. Oh, okay. 投资人. Okay. So I had to get the vocabulary together. So the process, when you don't have 48 hours to prepare, I had to just find what intuitively is most natural when I start, and what a few key points I need to bang out, and how do I end. So I have to model it, how like say maybe some athletes are said, I've never been an athlete like that, but some athletes are said to like imagine themselves swimming or playing basketball. You just visualize. So for me, I use a fair bit of intuition and visualization. So if I'm visualizing it doesn't feel right, it feels a bit like, not smooth, then I start again and visualize again and again and again. So for normal presentations, I can prepare up to 9 hours, which is why I don't speak as often anymore. Because and then also in the early years of a lot of speeches, I actually have one set of material that I reuse in a few conferences, right? And then I adapt it as I go with the same set of material. So because it's very taxing, to me it's like performance art. You gotta really script it, get it right, the slides, the pictures, everything, I always want to do original content as much as I can. I always want to have something that I feel moved by, and so I think those are my general principles.
Yeah, maybe because the intuitive one is hard to share with people because it's just years of you doing it, and then it becomes a unconscious competence, right? But let's talk about maybe one of the speech that you can use one as example that people can reference to, and then we can break it down, how does a 40-hour look like, and how do you start? Maybe, I watched a couple, I'm not sure I watched everything, but is there which one that stands out to you?
No, I'll say there's something common with all of them, which is that I will vehemently reject something in my script that I don't fully believe in. If I'm saying it and it's something is a bit not, I don't know if I can really believe it, you know what I mean? Or it doesn't move me, I don't do it. That's number one. Number two is that I always try to weave in stories. I always try to tell some stories, some quick stories, a bit of tangents, I don't talk about the point, I always try to recall stories. Thirdly, I hardly script jokes. Jokes and stuff like that, I've got, sometimes maybe I have some idea of a joke, but usually it doesn't work that way. So I've tried and it doesn't work, so I just don't really script jokes. If on the fly I feel like saying something a bit weird, I do it, and then sometimes people laugh, that's fine, but I don't script jokes. Number four is that the start and the end has to be precise. That means if I rehearse and word for word, it's got to be just precise. Those are the two main things. The last one I'll say is that I'm very concerned about how one point continues to the next.
Right.
So I will memorize continuity to make sure that my points actually flow towards, it actually continues a certain flow. So I think given those basic principles, that applies to all of my speeches. So, and the process is fairly simple. I just write it all out, I visualize it, I write it, I visualize, I write it, I time it, I just rehearse. There's no magic to it.
Wow.
It's just sheer bullheaded hard work.
No, it's good to know because it does, whenever a professional do something, it does look very easy and smooth on the outside. So Khailee is just yeah, you're born with it, right? But then actually the truth is, that's 48 hours of work, man. Do you want to do that? Yeah, you can get that speech. Do you want to put in that work, right? But also let's segue a little bit into pitching because you're pretty good at that. Maybe you want to share some tactics, some power move you have learned, and also specifically what you have learned from Obama about pitching.
Okay, let me contextualize pitching first, okay? So of course, in this day and age, at least the current modality of my work has a lot of startup pitching. So if let's say I've invested in your company and then I want to convince a very big brand name investor to invest in your company, I basically have just one WhatsApp message to do it. I have to say, hey, I've got this company, does this, do. You want an intro or not? If I get a WhatsApp message wrong, maybe they're nah, pass, or they don't reply, or they have this polite, maybe, how about this? It's versus introduce me right now, right? So I only have this little WhatsApp message. So yeah, potentially less, potentially more. It's tricky, man. So, and then when I'm pitching my fund, because I raise money from institutions, corporates, and folks who entrust me with money to invest in startups, I would also need to pitch myself and my startups too. Because they ask, hey, what have you invested in that's really interesting? then I would pitch them as well. So I think a couple of things come to mind. The first one is that in every pitch, right, there's a couple of excitement points. There's a few things about your company, or about your story, about your idea that is more interesting than the others, right? So I call them excitement points. And not all excitement points are created equal, right? I would put your best foot forward. So you identify what those excitement points are, you put best foot forward, even though it makes no contextual sense. So I'll give you an example. I said, hey Bryan, got this startup, right? Founders, like both of them built and sold a $200 million company, and then they've already raised money from Sequoia and SoftBank, and right now they're just expanding in another 20 more countries. Like, do you want an intro? You're like, dude, what does this company do? Right? Even like, there's just no freaking context at all. But I've given you some of the excitement points, which are like, oh, it's interesting enough. At least the worst case, right? I say, dude, you didn't tell me what it does, right? What does it do? At the worst case, you know. But I put some of the strongest things forward. For some startups, right, is like their founders' background is stronger. Some is that just the power of their vision is stronger. Some of them is their traction, their business progress in a short amount of time is stronger. Some of them is that the association with the investors that they have is very strong. So you got to sequence your best foot forward, so you can kind of lay it out. So this kind of breaks, I guess, a lot of like pitch formats, or you know, what, when, how, start with why or whatnot, you know. But this is what works for me so far, at least. It's very practical for a lot of folks that I work with, you know. So that's been very practical. So that's my general principle of pitching. Number two is that I think contextually, if we just take it for general startup pitching, I would lean back on my same presentation formula. Is that if you're saying something that doesn't actually, like, you can even just feel yourself, right, that it doesn't actually move you, you don't actually fully believe in it, you better not do it. So for example, right, some founders, they pitch like, oh, we're revolutionizing right, and then we got a bit of, we're using blockchain to revolutionize the way donations and remittance are transferred and I mean, like, that's bold, that's big, but if you are really not resonant with it, right, you can't carry that, you know. You can't. They won't be felt. So that's the same second principle, I would say. Third one, I think, is quite interesting. I'll share this with you. I learned it from someone in Malaysia who had a communications training, corporate training, public speaking course. It was called Present as Yourself. So at that time I was younger and I read about it and I got to meet the person. What he was teaching was very counterintuitive. He said that most public presentation would teach you, like, okay, stand a certain way, don't shuffle your feet, look at the audience, have eye contact, you know, all these kind of things, you know. So you're not going on stage, oh shit, man, am I having eye contact? Am I moving around place? Am I, you know what I mean? So you're too freaking nervous, right? So just present yourself. So his course is that, okay, he brings people on stage and says, okay, imagine you're talking to your best friend. You explain your idea to your best friend. How would you do it? Then they try to be formal. Okay, try again. Really, this is your best friend. Okay, try your mom. Present as yourself. So for me, it's like, if you sound like an abeng, go for it, dude. You know what I mean? Like, if you, like, you know, if you got, whatever you sound like, I mean, like, you just let it flow. Don't need to try to sound a certain way to pattern match what you think somebody else's pattern is. And for me, like, I'm like true and true abeng in my core accent, right? Because I'm in Chinese school, I grew up in Malaysia, right? So this abeng thing that I can't get rid of. But for the most part, is that I'm also trying to pronounce properly, right? So I've always tried to pronounce clearly, right? So hence, like, I enunciate, right, whenever I find I'm able to, right? For the most part, if like anyone's got accent, just go for it. So I guess, like, if you're pitching and you can put your best foot forward and lay out your excitement points, at least pick them up so at least you know which your excitement points are and you start with your best foot forward. If number two, you can, which was my number two thing again, huh? So I'll talk about three things. No, that's number three, when. Hey, what's number two? Move. Oh, yeah, only say things that you're moved by. If not, it's not going to be resonant. And then number three is that you should just present as yourself, right? So you don't need to add that layer of nervousness. I think maybe some of those things help. I think you mentioned Obama thing. I think in some of our conversations, like for me, like I like to just model how good speakers speak as well. Like what makes them so compelling of a speaker? Everyone's got a different style. Gary Vee's got a different style. He's just like angry, I guess. I don't know. Like he's got a certain style, right? That's very. He punctuates a lot, and it's very good. Like he's like, he's very forceful. Nas, he has fewer words, but he has a lot of force behind his words as well, but fewer. Like Gary Vee uses a bit more words. You take, say, Obama, right? So he speaks a bit slower. But he uses, like a couple things I picked up from him, like he uses both quantitative as well as qualitative imagery in some of his descriptions. So he'd be like, we're talking about all Americans from the farmers in Tennessee to like the bankers on Wall Street. We're talking about 400,000 of them and their families having new jobs, right? So you've got qualitative of like the farmer and the New York banker, and you've got quantitative numbers, 400,000, 4 million. So when you provide a broad range of imagery, that's why your mind is blown. That's why your mind is stretched. Because his words have asked you to imagine the farmer, which is very micro, and then the Wall Street banker, and their family some more. It's like, oh shit, man. So you're like imagining all this shit, and you talk about millions of them, right? So it stretches a little bit more. Versus just saying, okay, we're talking about 400,000 jobs created. How do you even imagine 400,000 jobs? Like, it's not visual enough. So his communication is quite visual, and along the way, like you just pick up clues on how to do certain things better, and yeah.
And actually, also one of the things that I learned from you is the top-down market sizing and bottom-up market sizing. Do you want to care to share about that? I think it's
a bit technical. I don't know. I don't want to talk about.
No, but I mean, like, it's just so. I mean, I go to pitches, right? And then I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, what does 1% of like all pets food sales mean, right? Like, well, can you really get 1%? Like, what is your track record, right? But no, I think it's important.
Okay, fine. Since you want to get technical, let's get technical, right? But then later we can zoom out.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to tie that back to pitching and believability. So let's say I'm trying to pitch you vintage mugs, okay? So I'm telling you that the total market size for mugs in the world is, let's say, $26 billion of mugs are being sold every year. And my startup with my cool ass vintage design, retro design, I'm going to take even if I take 0.00001% of it, I'm going to make like $1 million a year, right? So it's very typical style. Now, number one, it's too cliche. It's been done before a lot, and you may somehow make that argument. But that's kind of like a top-down type of argument. I always prefer to complement, where relevant, a bottoms-up argument. So what do I mean? If I come to you and say, hey, I've sold 100,000 of these mugs. There's 5 distributors in Singapore that sells 80% of all the mugs. I've already got distribution deals with both of them. And when I get all 5 distributors on, I'm going to reach like, I'll probably be able to at least quadruple my sales. And you're like, okay, that's believable. Then you're like, so how much sales do you have now? So, I'm making $200,000. Then if you can quadruple it, okay, maybe it gets towards $1 million. You're like, okay, at least it's $1 million revenue business, right? A bit like bottoms up. Then you say that, well, for mug distribution, there are also some international distributors who can get you into places like so-and-so and so-and-so, so-and-so, And so with a few of these distributors identified, it usually takes me about 6 months to get each distributor. Then, so the person who's listening is being walked through, again, visually, how does bottoms up, how does that get to a $10 million business or $100 million business? You're being walked along. So I think it's usually more believable, and hence it's got more force, it's more specific, and naturally people don't need to ask you, oh, how are you going to get to 0.01% because you walked them through. So there are a lot of other different examples that, of course, that we can recreate or reuse real life examples on bottoms up. But it's just naturally something that I hope more people can do.
Yeah, and I would point people, I'll put it in the show notes to the 5 power move in 3 minutes video that you do like a workshop live where you like workshop this founder's pitch. Yeah. It's just like really good. I don't know if you want to spend a bit of more time on like, technical stuff, because I think it's interesting on, like...
I don't know, what does the audience want? We'll lean into your audience. I mean, have they...
Talk about it.
Oh, maybe because, maybe I talk about all the time, right? So I'm like, sian already lah, right? So I'm like, oh, technical again. Oh, pitch advice again. Oh. I'm not like I hate it. I think it's valuable. People transform their entire pitch decks. I do that. I do that every day. You know what I mean? Because we got like 210 companies in Southeast Asia now, so they always Series A, B, C, D. We're always refining the decks to get the narrative right. So like this is a function of professional training. It isn't really a gift, right? It's just like you just do it 1,000 over times. So if you want to talk about it, let's go. Let's do it. Let's milk it.
Maybe the question would be, the broad question would be like, what is one thing you wish you have learned earlier as a leader?
Okay, so I wouldn't say it's like what I learned earlier, but it's just top of mind right now as far as leadership is concerned. I had led teams pretty unsuccessfully before in different areas, and then I've led teams immensely more successfully in some other parts, right? So with Sales.com, maybe at different points of time we didn't feel like we were winning, but overall I felt that we won in some way, and the team still, it's just great. I'm so proud of them, and such a pleasure to work with them, right? So I think so maybe there's some wins. And then at 500, a lot of the teams are all spread in different parts of the world. We got 150 people in 20 countries, and a lot of people are flying around all the time. And in this type of organization at 500, it's not like I can walk into office and, hey, let's have a town hall, right? Let's talk about our goals, right? I can't do that. And the thing is, because they're far away from me, I can't energetically lead in a way with them. I can't psych them up with my sheer optimism face to face. I can't vibe with them immediately. So things happen far away, and things happen asynchronously. I'll type a message, they wake up the next time zone, and then they reply to me, right? So it's a challenge. So it makes me think about the difference between a cult versus a culture, where with a cult, typically there's a person who you revere, right, as the central energetic influencer of sorts in the company. And so how do I weave culture around it? I feel like 500 is an organization that people actually join because of the environment and also the mission and the opportunity to actually do something meaningful enough, but also make enough. So instead of I'm just going to go to Africa and build schools versus I'm just going to be a financier on Wall Street, right? So let's say we use those two stereotypes. It's somewhere in between. You do something a little bit meaningful, but you also get to make money. And a lot of folks believe in bringing entrepreneurship to different parts of the world. So there's a certain missionness of it all. So when I look at it, I'm like, so people, if they are joining for the mission, and people continue to want to apply for the mission, how do I lead them if I'm not there? So that becomes interesting to me, you see. So I just go Google how to lead decentralized teams. And I came across this course on MIT learning. Okay. Yeah, so I just paid $700 or something, and then I'm a part of this online distance learning thing. And I just watch video lectures, I get homework to do. I failed an online course, that's how terrible I'm at. I didn't do my homework in time, then they send me all these email reminders, and then you are not allowed to complete the course and you will not be able to get a cert because I didn't do the homework. Okay, so I failed. But I watched a lot of the videos, and there's some group assignment. I got on Skype with some strangers, and we had some calls with each other. It was a good experience, and really.
What's the name of the course?
MIT Emeritus something. It's about leadership and collaboration in a decentralized world, or something like that. I'll send it to you.
What's interesting is that, people don't even know that you could actually pay for course in MIT without going to MIT.
Oh, there's there's ton, man. There's ton. A lot of these distant learning stuff, you know what I mean? And then it's yeah. But I did learn a lot about, I try to pick up clues. I call it clues, right? So I'm trying to pick up clues from them. I try to practice within the firm. Apart from flying everyone together, once or twice a year, trying to meet up, what else can I do? So that's why I'm reading all these books now. So I'm not here to kind of deliver an answer, but I'll just tell you in a long story form that I've led in a certain setting. I'm leading in a very different setting now. And how do I do that? I don't know. So what I would have loved to learn, had I not learned about leadership, is that what you think you know about leadership and everything, the skills, the chops that you've had, there is some instances that it would work very well. And then there are a lot of transferables, like the Navy SEALs and military idea. There's a lot of transferables, right? But I'm here. I think there's just a long way to go, right? How am I going to lead my own team at 500 Durians for Southeast Asia to, in the way that I see fit, and then how do I provide leadership to the the rest of the organization and all the rest of these funds who are led by leaders in their own right? So to me, it's like, that's a big question mark. So the short of it is that we're in this new world, man, and leadership is just totally, there's a lot of different contexts for it. And so I'm back at square one. That's why I'm reading all these leadership books now. I'm back at square one again.
What are some ideas that you are thinking of applying or trying out?
So there's one that worked very well that I got from that course that I took. So the observation is this: if you're in the same office, you get to bump each other, and you have like small talk.
Collegiate space.
Yeah, but not collision for ideas. You're just like talking nonsense. Like just now, like I say, hey, so Avengers, hey, do you need to watch the recap video before you watch it? Like, yeah, I think you better at least watch the videos once, right? I think you all talked about that Avengers thing. If you want a conference call, you need to talk about that. You got a freaking agenda, right? You're gonna, okay, sorry I attended late. I was just having trouble connecting to my Skype or my Zoom, right? And then you all say, okay, so thanks for coming on, Bryan. We're here to talk about da. You're just agenda driven, right? You don't talk about whether you want to watch the Avengers pre-video. No, you're not. But the small talk actually bonds people. How's the kids, Bob? That kind of shit actually matters. That's like a gel of culture. But if you're decentralized and doing all these things, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So what did I do? So now I have like really awkward small talk when I'm on calls. I said, hey, before we jump off the call, how did that birthday that you celebrated for your dog go? You know what I mean? I'm trying to make time in small talk. And later, if I think this works very well, then I may institutionalize it.
Right, ritualize.
Ritualize it later so it can be replicated, you see. So there's always the 5-minute kind of personal, kind of lightning personal talk. But I don't want to make it too forced either. It might just become another agenda item, right? So, so I'm experimenting. with that. It's just one idea of an experiment. The second one is that other ideas on leadership, decentralized kind of things is that it goes without saying that I think physical proximity is still very, very powerful, right? So how do you actually get that? And how do you construct it in ways where you actually know when people are going to be where? Because right now, 500, we fly around area, and sometimes we don't know we're going to be in the same city. And so hence, like, we've been doing more and more of like, say, hey, I'm going to be in Bangkok, right? And like, who else is flying nearby? Let's just fly together. And then so sporadically, we can self-organize. So we need the data to be visible so we can self-organize.
I'll point you to this entrepreneur who's doing this project here, Yong Fook.
Oh, he's good. I have admired Yong Fook and his work since I was literally 16 and 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
He gave himself a new title back then called web producer because he was a cross between a designer, a programmer, and a copywriter. And I likened myself to that. So I've been friends with Yong Fook for the longest time. I've been a huge fan. I remember all of his projects. His earliest projects, a lot of his projects. Huge fan of Yong Fook.
He's doing this thing, Let's Tropic, right now, and it's exactly what you're talking about. Remote teams and visualization, a dashboard to see different time zones, different clocks, where time people are. And I'm not sure if one of the features might be that you can build into his thing.
Oh man, I'm going to drop him a text. I didn't know he was working on that. Man, he's going to solve my problem. I'll give you one last one, it's super cool, that this MIT folks were using on the conference calls. So it's a add-on to Google Hangouts. So imagine all of us on a Google Hangout now, and I'm talking. So then there's a visualized ball that goes to me, And the more I talk, the ball gets bigger and bigger, So I'm like, shit, I'm like a mic hog in the karaoke, So I'll be like, oh, Bryan, what do you think? Possible to you, because I don't want to be, I look like a jackass, right? So then the ball, then you start talking, the ball goes to you, you see. So the ball keeps going, and then you got analytics on who talked the most. Now this disincentivize the talkative extroverts, or whatever you want to call them, from dominating meetings. They're scared, of being the jackass, so they quickly keep passing it on. It's super. So I want to like see if I can try to integrate that in some way. Imagine like we're having a normal casual conversation now. I pop out my phone and just put talk analytics right on it, and then we just have a normal chat, and just to know like who's talking more than others, right? You see the ball moving. That would create a very inclusive world because more conversations get heard.
What a powerful idea.
Yeah. So there are these little hacks lah. Like I said, leadership, we're in a new world where there's physical proximity is not there, and how do you lead in that space? I'm still trying to figure it out.
From chatting with you, like on the outside, you have this like very relaxed, life is good sort of personality, but also you're kind of like a highly effective individual in terms of the output that you have. On top of that, you're also quite self-aware of yourself, right?
Hope so.
Is this like through years of self-analysis, mentoring, coaching, or are there any favorite personality frameworks, tools, resources? Just a big question. You can take it anywhere.
I think that everyone has some degree of curiosity, and I think that is a very good starting point for self-awareness and introspection and discovery. And so when it comes to personality and the observation of personality and observing your own thoughts, it's like one of the most fun activities you can do, right? And so for me, it's like I grew up with three brothers, but we have enough age space still. We were in school at different time schedules, so I had a lot of alone time. So whether I'm journaling or I'm writing or I'm just thinking, like observing and having these conversations with yourself is just like incredible fun. It's just it almost makes you really self-reliant, So I think that I'm really curious why I think certain things. I'm really curious about why repeated thoughts keep coming. It's like, you imagine you had a recurring nightmare. Wouldn't want you know why? So if you had a certain thought pattern that kept emerging, that kept being triggered by the same trigger, wouldn't you want to know why? So I think that work is just infinite discovery and infinite curiosity. So I think for me, that first thing I would say about that is that that's foundationally something that's really fun. The second thing is, when I talk to folks like you, because you're curious, like early on, let's say Nas earlier when I was jamming with him, like you almost amplify the curiosity when you're with your other folks who also want to observe and want to learn and want to discover. And I just lead the best life ever. I just meet these people all the time. Like in one of my earlier trips to Vietnam, the founder of VNG, which is a massive company over there, a big gaming company, his name is Min. He's like, it's literally $1 billion plus company. He gave me 2 hours of his time. And I was literally pretty much a nobody. And he was like, or at least he didn't know much about me as well. He sat down and we just had lunch and he was just talking. And all he did was ask soul-piercing questions. He asked why a lot. Oh, why do you say that? Oh, what are some examples of it? How does that work like that? How does that work like that? So what have you seen over there for this? He's freaking milking my brain dry, man. So halfway I was like, hey, dude, like, number one, why did you take this meeting with me? And number two, like, how much time do you have? He said, no, I can go on and on. And he said that when he meets somebody who's very different or comes from a different world, he just wants to know. And then so he just extracts, right? So for me, I can have a good jam session with him and we just learn a ton. And it just heightens our general awareness. So I think when a lot of curious people meet, then they get exchanged a lot of ideas. I think that's just another layer of fun. It's like my own fun just amplified, right? So I think that's really, really fun. So I don't know if people find it fun or not, because some people actually find video games more fun. There are a lot of competing fun things, right? Video games, movies, I don't know.
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook browsing, seeing other people's lives. There's a lot of competition for fun. So I had a blog post when I was probably like 20 or something like that about what are your top 3 things you find fun and how does that shape your destiny? What if I liked eating potato chips and snacking, okay, my top fun thing. Secondly, what if I just like downloading and watching TV series, okay, my second fun thing. What if I liked, my third fun thing that I like the most is alcohol? How does that affect the trajectory of my life? Versus number 1 fun thing, having curious conversations with everybody. I want to ask why, I just want to know, I just want to learn, right? Being curious. Number 2, I like, building things with my hands in like this maker hive in this workshop here, right? So it's like, I like building things with my hands. Then number 3 is that I like to understand the world of finance and how it works. What if your passions are like curiosity, finance, as well as making things? What would your life be like? Because if you find it fun, you're going to do more of it. You gravitate to it irrationally, and you probably end up being good at it. So why am I going around ikigai looking for my passions? Why don't I just ask myself today, what is the most fun thing right now? Right now, what is fun? You like beatboxing, right? I'm sure you find it fun to some degree. If not, why would you do it, right? I don't know. I think it's so. Yeah, I mean, to your question, yeah, you know, yeah. So I just happen to find this fun, right? So I don't know whether it creates like greater self-awareness or this and that or whatnot, right? I mean, we can get off the technical realm and go into the philosophical realm if you want, but you know,
No, man, and you're right to say that there's a lot of competing other things that like taking away your attention and like then the question becomes like how are you in control of this, right? How can you be in control of that?
Wonderful segue. My primary practice has a lot to do with whether or not I can navigate this life. As in, whether I'm navigating, whether or not I can navigate this mind. Because this mind is so easily distracted by shiny objects, by things that just happen, right? And by repeated blocks. If you believe in past lives or whatnot, maybe it's from past lives, maybe from this life. There's just like a lot of foundational shit that it's writing this script, the code in our brain, right? And really has been, a lot of it's written, and it just keeps running and running and running, right? So how do we navigate in and out of it? And so that's why, like, some things, if I get to, like, for example, I didn't eat chili for the longest time. Then people ask, why do you not eat chili? Then I said, I'll tell them this. Because I knew people, and I like somebody's mom carried chili in a handbag everywhere, because she just can't eat food without chili anymore, because she just loves chili so much, and she just keeps eating chili. So everywhere she goes, she asks for chili, and no chili, lucky her bag got chili, they take out chili and put, right? So you see, is she in control of her eating habits? Is she navigating this world, or is she just having a script run her, the chili script run her? So for me, I'm like, I just don't want to eat chili, because I don't want to go down that path. And you may, like, I think it's a very strong argument that I'm just being a bit neurotic about it, and I do eat chili every now and then if it happens to be there. I'm not avoiding it completely. But I don't want to be addicted to chili, I stopped sugar when I was 14. Okay, 14, I dropped sugar completely when I was 14.
Yeah. We're going to come back to this because 2016, you dropped a lot of things.
Yes.
You cut the hair.
Yep.
Dropped the veganism. You took up, stop eating meat.
Yep.
And you tried not watching adult materials.
Yes.
For the longest time.
Yes.
Habits.
Just navigating your mind, right? Like mastering and rewiring habits.
So I think maybe a good place to sort of jump off, I'll just read one of your reflections that you have on your blog on 2016, right? I didn't feel like I have enough. I was at most distance from my family and friends. A long-term relationship came to an end. I doubled down on work, partying, and living it up. I started writing out even bigger goals for myself, taking on more new projects, more things, more experiences. Still, something was missing. I still felt I did not have enough. Tell me the story of how that happened.
Yeah. Where do I begin? So this moment was after I already had built and sold those two companies. And, I think there were some scripts running at the time which were activated. They had a lot to do with like wanting more things. Bought like a penthouse where rich people live, decked it out. Had this, like for my standards, kind of stupid wardrobe. Just a walk-in wardrobe. There's all these clothes that I don't wear. I didn't buy a single car. I've never owned a car. Thank goodness I didn't get into that. I just started wanting a lot of things, right? And then the more kind of like I wanted to pursue in that way, I don't know. There was like a disturbance. A disturbance is what I call it. Like it was disturbing. It's just like a mouth. It's like let's say you try and listen to radio, and there's a bit like fuzz.
How do you notice that?
I don't know.
How do you sort of manifest itself?
I don't know. It manifests itself. The fuzz always becomes obvious when it's quiet. So when you're alone, when you're on, maybe on a plane, or you're on the shitter, or you're like, you wake up and you're just rolling around a bit, you're like, what is this that I feel, right? And then so I felt very disconnected at the time for some reason. So I can't really tune back into the flavor at the time because it seems so many years ago, even though it's probably 2016, is it? Holy mac, it's only 3 years ago. It felt like a previous life.
No, and also I wonder, because with people who are, went through this like pendulum swing of, suddenly have agency versus all the way to the other end where like I just throw away everything, life just is the moment. Then they have a hard time finding, well, what should I do? Like so much free time, right? How are you building your philosophies on it? And of course, maybe we can also touch on a little bit about like Date with Destiny, if you want to talk about it, or like if there's any other things.
This whole conversation, like all this is a process of becoming, as you will, right? Yeah. So for me, like whether the pendulum is swinging and where it's swinging, this is just a snapshot in time where I'm at. Maybe I'm gonna be like very different a year or two from now. I don't know how so. Hopefully not in a very bad way. But I think for the most part, right, trying to map where it's gonna be, I don't know. I don't know if it's a useful activity all of the time. I think there's a certain culture which wants you to be definitive of what your 50-year plan is or something like that, right? Like wants you to be pretty definitive about some things. And then some purposes require a lot of definition to be realized. Yeah. But there's so many moments where I just create room for myself to just play and just be. That's why I like board games. I play board games with friends, with my founders, and different games exercise different parts of the brain. I do draw still. I've been drawing since a kid. I do draw. I draw things for my wife, like things I remember. I draw a little caption, kind of thing. What else do I do? Just things that allow me to play. I've really gotten into freestyle rapping.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at the front of my phone, I've got more apps about freestyle rapping than work. You know what I mean? Because you can do it anywhere. You can do it anytime. Yeah. And it's highly creative. It's probably like your beatboxing. It's very similar.
We're gonna do
okay. We're definitely gonna do it. Yeah. So. And I'm not amazingly good like you, by the way. I'm not trying to.
No, we're gonna get there.
I'm trying to beat like Singapore top freestyle rapper or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's like I like hip hop. I like rap. To me, it's like poetry. There's a lot of wordplay, right? It's very fun. It's very spontaneous. So I have those apps where they just give you a random word, and you just try to like freestyle. Oh, cool. Yeah, try to freestyle to the word. So it's a little game I can play myself, right? And then so these are pockets where I don't need to plan. I don't need to be purpose driven. I can just like go with the flow a little bit. Then when I have certain people. Because when I have certain people, I'm not trying to control an outcome. The word I use is allow. How do I just allow life to happen? So when I'm with like, say, parents, wife, whatever, it's chill, right? And then you just like allow. A lot of creativity, sometimes you just allow. Even sometimes at work also, I just allow. You know what I mean? So I think that it isn't all about, for me at least, like right now, it isn't fully about control.
Yeah, but how funny that isn't the case when you're building that, and you only later acquire that this new philosophies.
Well, a lot of it is very function driven, right? Like for example, a lot of my startup founders, right? If they don't like focus, if they're freaking freestyle rapping all the time, they're not gonna survive the next 3 or 4 months. It's gonna let down a lot of people. Yeah. It means a lot to them, right? So they get a nose to the whatever proverb, and then they're gonna work. A lot of founders who go, because most startup games are long games, they may overwork, and they need to be encouraged to play. Yeah. They need to be encouraged to play. They need a reminder to play. And if that reminder to play and to allow and to relax a little bit doesn't come, it's going to come for them. I had 2,200 investments in 74 countries, 2 suicides. There's 1 suicide too many already. I had another founder got a stroke, right, in 30s. I've another one, the wife gave me a call. Because like he's in a bad place, right? He's thinking a lot of very dark thoughts. So for them, their drive for function they're almost not in control of it anymore. That means the script becomes to be functional, to be productive, to succeed in my job, right? Or succeed in my startup becomes the script. They're not the navigator anymore. They're being navigated. So I think as long as we can navigate ourselves and can amp up, amp down, I think we should be okay. I think we'll get through this life.
Yeah, no, I think just the fact that knowing that you are in control and knowing that it's a script, not like this is how the life should be, have like immense power already.
Yes. I've been typically very Fight Club lah, right? There's a scene, Edward Norton, you are not your IKEA furniture, you are not your this, you're not your that. Oh man, so good. Watched the movie how many times already?
When we were speaking yesterday, you mentioned about like being a very skeptic of what Tony Robbins does.
Yes.
And then you went to one of his conferences, Day of Destiny, which is a long conference, but it was like 10 days, so 7 days or 10 days, right? What changed? Why and how was your walk us through a little bit of like what's the perception of this conference, and when should people spend like I think $7,000, $10,000 to go?
Yeah. Well, I think that personal growth and like just learning from people, I've always been pro learning from folks, wherever they may be, So even as a teenager, I delve into the Bible, even the Quran. You know what I mean? It's just like read up about what people believe in. I see that Tony Robbins was something I didn't lean into because he was so mainstream. And then there's this like small hipster indie part of me that was like, too mainstream. Mustn't be good.
What was it?
I don't know. It's just like some mainstream dude, right? So I was like, meh, So I was like, I'm always going for the niche. I'm trying to find the ideas from the edges, So there's a certain script that prevented me from accessing the value.
So who told you? Who's the one that changed your mind?
I had like a business partner, right? Who we work with, Patrick Grove. We worked together on the Sales.com's IPO as Rev Asia Berhad, and so he went, and he's a big fan of Tony Robbins, right? But that wasn't the thing that actually made me kind of be open to it. He had a previous partner called Bryan. Bryan went, and then after 3 or 4 days, he just quit the company altogether and he went to live in the forest. And he raised his kids there with wild dogs and everything, And so my wife and I just bought a land there, by the way. Yeah, he's our neighbor now. It's very near lah. It's not far away for us. It's quite near the city in Malaysia. And so so that was very interesting to me. And then another one of his partners went for Tony Robbins, and he also left the company eventually to become a life coach. Right. So they've made bold decisions to redesign their life after that experience. And then Patrick told me I'm not bringing any of my colleagues to Tony Robbins ever again. I keep losing them. He said I'm not going to bring them there. So he's joking. So after hearing those other stories, that made me a bit more curious. Then I started Googling, like reading up. Mark Benioff of Salesforce swears by Tony Robbins. Ray Dalio swears by Tony Robbins. Huge recommender for Tony Robbins. And then suddenly there's all these athletes and business people and folks in tech as well. So I said, okay, let's go. Let's give it a go, right? Then Netflix, I Am Not Your Guru, right? There's like a Tony Robbins thingy there. And I was like, hey, actually, I think I can learn something from this.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so after seeing the preview of it on Netflix of sorts, and I told my wife, I said, look, you want to do this? She's like, yeah, let's roll, man. And then so we just went to hustle, tried to find a discounted ticket, and then we went for Date with Destiny. So this was just a few months ago in December.
Florida?
Yeah, Florida. Have you been?
No.
Oh.
It's on the list.
Okay.
Like along with Burning Man and
I see.
Zappos Culture Camp and all that stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's good lah. It's good. I mean, he's managed to. Not anything specific, I want this whole interview to be me just like dishing out advice. You know what I mean? It feels very contrived.
It's opinions, right? I mean, just to paint the flavor and change like maybe. Hey, I mean, it's expensive. Not a lot of people should.
Oh, okay. So I give the free version. Just kidding. The pirated version. No, but I think for him, I think the main thing is that he's managed to codify a lot of practical ideas. It's codified in ways where it's easy to use. So sometimes wisdom is delivered in various forms. Some people, they're like, oh, I love Rumi. You know, and I love like quoting Rumi and all his poems of love. And then you just read the poems of love, then you know exactly what you need to do. You know, some people, maybe they like a Thich Nhat Hanh. I keep butchering his name, I feel so bad.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
There we go. Yeah, so I like his stuff. Like, I think he's got a lot of good, yeah, it's a lot of good work. You know, he's got one book called How to Love, amazing book. Very practical. You know, so some people like Thich Nhat Hanh, some people like Rumi, some people like the Bible, some people like whatever. But Tony Robbins happens to have a lot of people benefit from it. He's like the Michael Jordan of his industry, right? He's just so good at it, and he just like thousands of people get moved. So there's a ton to learn from somebody like that, no matter what you believe in. Yeah. And so you just got to go experience it, lah. Yeah. But if you want some free stuff, it's on Spotify. You put Tony Robbins on Spotify, you'll find some of the programs for free.
Fair. We're gonna talk about your amazing wife.
We'll take the tangent from the discovery process of okay, so when I was like kind of rediscovering myself and life, and you know, I was immensely functional at work for some reason. Like functional at work.
Functional, okay.
Because like my mind was more clear.
Yeah.
Right? And then so I wasn't vegan yet, by the way, right? I was still like omnivore. And then gradually what happened was that I was taking too many eggs because I was trying to like bulk up. So I was eating a lot of eggs, and then I didn't want to eat beef, you know, and then I just felt not so good about eating beef, so I just went for white meats. Yeah. Then I ditched chicken and I went for fish. So you can argue it's pescatarian, but I'll have some chicken sometimes kind of thing. So it's just on the path lah. So I met Eliza. I've met Eliza before actually, right? In my previous life, right, so to speak, right, when I was still kind of consumed and autopiloted by scripts. Yep. And so she was appalled by me. So we met at some party, and then she just found, like, yeah, I think appalling would be the correct word. I was about to say it's a strong word, maybe it wasn't. So like, we didn't really, although we had a lot of common friends and we were in the same WhatsApp group, like somehow, like, it just didn't really connect. But as I was going through this, I was like asking my friends, hey, let's celebrate our birthdays together in Bali. A lot of my friends in that group had similar birthdays. And I said, let's go there. And let's also just not party, let's just do a digital detox for a few days. And all we do is exercise, eat clean, and just be no phones, right? And if you want to check for emergencies, every night just 15 minutes or something like that. So we had some rules. Nobody wanted to go. None of my friends wanted to go. But 2 people did. Eliza and another friend. So Eliza and this other friend said, okay, that sounds cool. Let me try to make arrangements. Let's do it, right? So hence we're like, okay, let's go to Bali, let's go to Ubud, let's do this. And after we're done with the digital detox, then we go to Seminyak and rent a villa and party. Last minute, the other friend pulled up. So just me and Eliza. So we slept on separate beds, right? I said, let's just get separate rooms because I felt that she just didn't really like me, right? So let's just get separate rooms. And then she said that she's actually quite scared of like ghosts and stuff like that. So she, but she's separate beds, right? So I was like, okay, fine. So we slept separate beds. And she did her thing. I did my thing. We didn't do anything. It was like platonic. We just do our own thing for a few days and like time before we go to sleep. It was very interesting because the first night I told her, I said, look, I kind of get this sense that you think I'm like there's this weird dynamic because I felt it, right? I said like, what's up lah? But do you have certain judgment of me? Let's just talk about it, right? Just lean into it, right? And she said lah, yeah lah, she's heard a lot about me, this and that, and some other things, and this was like, I was like, yeah, I said I'm trying to figure all this shit out, right? So the next few nights, right, like she was doing her thing, I was doing my thing, but before we went to bed, it's like when your kids are at a sleepover party, and you're like, okay lah, good night. Then suddenly you talk some more.
The 2 questions that,
Then suddenly, okay, hey, we're going to sleep, I need to wake up at 7 o'clock, okay, good night. It's like, hey, by the way, then you get the dynamic. So after we went to, out of that thing, completely platonic, we stayed in touch as friends. And then as we started, I was traveling and she was doing her thing and we were just like talking on Skype and stuff. It felt like, the way we described it was that as though you're a very old couple, and you've just been through everything already, and you're just like sitting on a nice little antique chair like this, and then you're just chatting. So that was the quality of conversation, the comfort and the openness, and so that was the quality. And we thought that's really cool. And I was still convinced that she didn't like me, lah. So I never made any advancements because I didn't want to hurt myself or whatnot, right? I mean, I was like interested, of course, right? But I didn't say anything. But eventually I did. I was like, hey, what do you think about law, right? And she was like, yeah, so I've been thinking about that as well because it's quite special, this long distance, this kind of thing. Then she just left her job, dropped everything. She flew to San Francisco. We've been together since. Now, how did the veganism thing happen was that at Bali, she's like, hey, why not these few days we just try going vegan? And I was like, okay, because I wanted to show her I can do it, right? And just did it. That's one of the reasons. But I was vegan since, After 3 months of being together in San Francisco, I felt, okay, I'm going to marry this one. And then after that 6 months only, I proposed, then after we got married, shortly after, it's very fast. So there's no making out, no dating, no courtship. We just went straight into something serious, and then I straight married her, and then we've been together since. It's about overall, I think 2 years technically married, and then and like that now.
Because it's so fast.
Yes.
There's probably some stuff that you miss out talking about.
Yeah.
Anything that came out.
Ongoing discovery, but I will say that the tangent why this story has a tangent to what I said earlier was this. I was in the process of discovery, and when I purged everything, things were a little bit clearer to me. And because I'm in the break, I'm in the light, I'm not in a fog, so I'm not really second guessing myself. So I felt very clear that this was the right thing to do for me. And I went into it. But I didn't go into it unprepared. I was back on Google. How to have a successful marriage, because I've always rejected the idea of marriage for a very long time. I thought it was one of these like traps, these kind of societal constructs that are very dangerous. You cannot simply back, getting. So I was Googling it. Hell, I read many books, the 7 Principles of Successful Marriage. What else? There's the other one, how getting the love that you want. By Hendricks, I started reading books, I started Googling, I started trying to just have a body of understanding. I started interviewing people. I started interviewing men who have been married at various stages. Some is like fiancé, some is married 20 years, I started interviewing. Then I was late night in transit at a bus in between some American airports. And then the bus driver was driving it, and just me. And I asked him, I said, hey, sir, are you married? He said, yeah. So how long have you been married? And he's like, 16 years. I said, how often do you have sex with your wife? Have you ever cheated on your wife? Like, what kind of things you fight about? I mean, like, it's 3 a.m. I'm sure he wants some interesting conversation too, right? Go straight lah. So I started interviewing. I collected experiences from 12 different men, and I asked them a lot of piercing questions. So I started to create like a framework for myself on what it actually is. And I leaned into it a little bit more. I wanted to know that I was ready. I didn't want to like get somebody into a deal that was going to be raw for them, right? So I spoke to her dad. Right? So then the dad was like also quite philosophical. He was like, we had this walk on the hill, right? So just like broach the idea and everything out, right? So he said that the reason why he's older now, and he's an extreme minimalist okay? Extreme okay? It's like extreme. Like he doesn't need to be, right? But he is. So he said that the reason why I exercise, why I take care of my health, is because I don't want to be a burden to somebody else. And if you don't know how to take care of your mind, right, you're going to be a burden to somebody else. If you're not stable, right, if you're not good, right, you're going to be a burden. And then if you keep wanting more things, you won't have enough for others. So if you don't want anything anymore, you have plenty for everybody. So that was the essence of our long talk, and some of it, that really got me thinking. So that's how I prepared for it. So I didn't want to like dive into it. I prepared as I would learn how to be good at sales, as I would be, same thing, how to be good at a marriage. I had to prepare, I had to read, I had to study, I had to know what the hell it's about. So at least I feel that I can be good at it, right? So at least I did a bit of homework in that sense. Yeah.
What were your framework or mind shift that happened that make you accept or like rethink about marriage again? Because before you were like totally against it, right?
Yeah, I was pretty much strongly against it because I was more subscribing to impermanence, and a lot of those ideas, right? But I think this was a little bit different. Number one, it felt right, okay. So the intuitive part was there, but the more logical part of it was that I believe that functioning and coupling can be a really wonderful force for both parties if done right, and also can be of great benefit to a lot of like functioning, you'll be of great function and service. And why Eliza is because she is very different from me. She's been in social work her entire career. She's built like homeless kitchens, and she's done a lot of that kind of work. And her primary motive is how to help people. Like, I would have a discussion with you like that. Let's say we're just having a discussion in the airport, right? She'll like just run away halfway because at a distance, some old man is trying to lift a bag. She's like constantly aware when, Then like some of the earlier like meetings we had, like we just went out and then we ate. And then after that, then she's like, go and tapao some fries. I'm like, wow, you really like French fries, man. Then she's like, oh no, there's a homeless person outside, So she's very aware, on opportunities to help people. So the way she was wired, her building blocks are very different from mine. But that's the kind of building blocks I want to install. And for her, she wanted to see how do you actually execute on how do you actually use finance to actually change the world or help the world, you see. So we came from two different ends, impact and profit, and then those are like the things we do together, watch documentaries, discuss ideas, talk about finance. There's a lot of body of that. We do a lot of play and a lot of other things that couples do too, but that's what really binds us. We want to be better and we want to know how we can serve. So we're constantly saying, how can we serve? And so hence like even our wedding, we didn't have a wedding because we wanted to save money from the wedding so we could give. So we gave away 1.something million ringgit, which is, I don't know how many sing is that. Like, okay.
You want to talk about your not wedding?
Yeah, kind of. So it's like, it's just a natural segue, I guess. We just thought it was like a big waste of money, just have everyone fly over and then pay for flowers and all that shit. So we saved all that money and then instead talked about the causes that we worked with together over time. What did we learn from these causes? And then for the wedding registry, people can actually donate to these causes. Why talk to a wedding planner when I can talk to an app developer? So I talked to an app developer, create like an online experience where people can dial into our wedding. We seat them at tables, so they can have a chat within their tables. They can go to the lobby and chat as well. They can take a picture with the couple and with different friends by searching the names. And then they snapshot the face, there's a circle, they fit in, So there's all the different features we created for the online wedding experience. And that is just like an example, right, of the kind of things that like Eliza and I like to do, with some of our free time. Yeah. The things that we find really fun when we can come up with ways that we can change narratives, we can try and impact things. So I think that to your question, those are some of the things which rationally made a lot of sense to me. Why am I going to spend the rest of my life serving someone who leads a more or less banal life of just serving themselves? It's kind of like low ROI in a way of love and capacity, isn't it? So like she naturally serves the world more so, like she cares about a lot of things, right? And ours is a journey of caring a lot of things too. And so like if we can functionally serve each other so we can serve more people, we thought that would get the energy flowing in a way that would lead a life at least that we think is worth living.
Let's just sort of end with this question. What are some things that you are trying to improve on right now?
I think that the thing is like this, at least the way I observe my current practice, right, is that if I get excited and ambitious and I kind of see a path to actually create and solve a certain problem, right, how do I organize it as such where a lot of people are working on it as well? So how do you build machine and architecture systems, So I feel that how do you turn what I call God mode into like profit mode? So when you get consumed by a vision, a few things happen. Number one, you see everything. You're omni-seeing of like, oh, then you got this and later you launch this and everything's all connected, Number two is that you are timeless. It's as though everything has already happened or happened at once. It's very blur. So I wanted to understand how do I turn God mode into profit mode through the people I work with and the conversations I have, so more can be translated to rallying and uniting a lot of so-called followers or whatnot to do earth work, right? So we can actually create organizations and movements. So I think that process is something I'm trying to navigate better. I'm trying to develop a lot of turning intuition stacked with a lot of data and research so we make better investment decisions. I'm trying to instill a lot of directionality to 500 for its work to continue to expand and succeed. So I think that navigation ability, if I said, okay, I'm just going to be, let's say I want to scale down and I just want to be a antique mug painter,
Okay.
Right? So then my navigation ability is more how do I navigate the painting and, how do I make myself get up and actually do the work, right? So it's like a different locus of creation if I were to choose that path. But if I'm going to try to do more, I got to up my game. So to your question, it's actually the same practice. I'm not trying to learn something new. I'm just trying to get better at what I'm trying to do.
Just playing a different game. And your game is translating God mode to Earth mode.
There's one, definitely there's one metaphor for the creative process. Because the larger game is that, like, I feel energetically, everyone's creative. Everyone's a creator. Okay, and if you want to use kind of like religious metaphor, God is in us, or we are God, or whatever, you can use what you like, right? But you feel quite energetic no matter what work you're doing, right? There is an energy that flows through you that makes you want to do something. How do you navigate that? Whether or not you're a painter, or you're a filmmaker, or whether or not you're a business person or an accountant, how do you navigate your craft? And so if we can, on this earth and this life, we can navigate better, we can create more, then we can energize more, and all this, hopefully we can love more, right? So I'm just trying, man. I'm just trying.
All right, so shall we jump into the patented, frequently asked question and, short answers, long answers. What is the book or books you have given most as a gift?
I've not been given a book in a long time. Clearly, I've not invested in friendships enough. I'm kidding. But yes. But your question is that have I given as well? I have given the advice to read a certain book and also given physical copies before of this book called The E-Myth.
Michael E. Gerber.
You got it. Old school, man. I'm like OG like that, right? It's an old book written before internet was really a big thing. But it's so clear. This whole God mode, prophet mode, this kind of thing.
Tell a bit more about that book.
That book has, it uses the words of the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. So as a technician, you're doing stuff and you get it right. It's a very different mode. And then as a manager, you're managing people, right? And then on the top of that, as an entrepreneur, you're always envisioning and you're always building, right? Strategizing and building. So hence a lot of people start a business because they're actually technicians. You like baking cakes, I'm going to open a bakery. Then you realize that you're not even baking cakes anymore. You're just managing people and everything, and your life's a freaking nightmare. So the idea of that book was hey, wake up, right? You better not start a business if you don't want to be an entrepreneur and a manager. If you just want to be a technician, then you just continue holding your craft. It's a little bit better for your purpose. But if you do want to become an entrepreneur, at least you understand that body and you at least know what you need to do earlier on so you don't shock yourself on how hard your life is, right? So it's been years since that
it's great.
It's been years since that book was written, but it's still so classic. I always advocate it.
Is there anything at the age of 35, something that you have tried and you know that you didn't get very good at or you maybe didn't enjoy?
So much. I love ping pong. I love table tennis. It's because it's so instinctive. It's so fast, right? You just gotta be it's gotta be in your body, not your brain almost, right? So it's
Google didn't help for that one.
No way, man. No matter how much I Googled, it did not improve my top spin or my backhand or whatever. It's not work.
Is there anything that you want to kind of be awesome at in the coming years?
I think I've spoken a lot about leadership and creativity, and the translation of creativity. Maybe in later years, I hopefully can codify some of this, so at least some people can use it.
A book's coming out?
I don't know, maybe you write one out, right? And then I can just talk and then you turn it into a book, maybe, I don't know, right? Maybe, who knows, right? You've interviewed so many interesting people, I'm sure you can write a book. You write a book. Yeah.
Be to that goal.
My wife has a very funny saying, it's so I'll be hey, that's a really good idea. Maybe you can do this and then it may be great. And she says, hey, I'm not going to be your creative lemming, okay? Don't try to inspire me to do things.
It only comes to you.
It's an inside joke. She knows I'm lazy as shit. I just want to create things and then you know what I mean. It's a body of work that.
Play God.
God mode. I'm kidding.
What have you purchased recently?
But on a serious note, I think to just cap that off, right? What do better, right? Is that God mode alone? I don't know, man. It's manager mode is so that we talked about it earlier. that shit's hard and it's so necessary. I think what is holding humanity back are really good managers. There's so much good technology that isn't going forward into people's hands is because not the lack of good technologists, not the lack of good technology, it's just good humanists who are good managers. So that's something I'm trying to be better at. That's why I'm reading the type of books that I'm reading right now.
What have you purchased recently under $100 that's most impacted your life?
Oh, okay. So my ears cannot hold AirPods, and it has been a bane of my existence because they connect a little bit better than others, and then they keep falling on my ears. So I bought this thing called Ear Buddies, which is like some rubber, like extra rubber for people with like odd ears like mine, right? So it's massive lah, but it fits better. Transform.
Ear Buddies.
Yeah, I'm putting it
on the earpod.
Yeah. No, you buy an earpod, I put it on the iPhone Y, I bought a few and so I'm putting it on all my shit so it actually sticks in my ear. Yeah, my gym workout thingy, so I just put it in.
What is the worst advice you see or hear being dispensed in your world?
Oof. Okay, fundamentally, I believe that no advice can be 100% bad. There's always a context for the advice to be very functional, right? So, which is kind of ironic because what I'm about to say is that I think what's super annoying is when people say it depends, right? It's that, oh, but it depends. Oh, it's so annoying. You know what I mean? It's just such a conversation stopper, right? But it depends on what, right? So what are the kind of conditions, right, for things to actually work? So I think that kind of level of awareness on like when does something work and when it doesn't, and understanding, I think that the lack of that and just like stopping the conversations, it depends, right? It's just, I don't know, man. It's just so dysfunctional.
What do you have an example? Like, when did someone use that?
A lot. Like, okay, so for example, it's like, okay, let's say we're talking about, okay, let's debate a current issue lah. What's a current issue these days? Something happened in, let's talk about, okay, something maybe it's not so current. Let's say Brunei. Okay? So they passed a law on stoning like homosexuals, right? Yeah, you didn't know that? It's real. Yeah, it's real. Okay, so like if you're found to be homosexual in Brunei, you're eligible for stoning to death.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty hardcore, right? So if we're gonna have a conversation about how do you think about it, and saying, and somebody just says, actually it all depends. If you were trying to like debate something or talk about it, it all depends. So, so maybe like, let's say I'm gonna ask you advice. Hey, when should I actually kind of use this to read this book and the lessons from this book I apply to my business? And you're like, it all depends. And then like the conversation just like ends there. It almost like it.
Is a conversation stop?
Yeah, it's terrible. You just okay. Never mind. I'm gonna stop right there.
Yeah. If you can send a message back in time to your 24-year-old self, and tell him or her to cultivate a skill or habit, what would that be?
Allow. Everything's gonna work out just nice. Your intuition is actually spot on. You are on the right track, even though it doesn't seem like it. Everything's gonna be fine.
When you think of the word successful, who came into your mind and why?
I've been thinking a lot about that dog I told you about, Gizmo. Is Gizmo successful? He's lost his sight, he's lost his hearing, but he manages to find food and pee. But when you hold him, he sinks into you, Imagine you're blind and deaf and somebody grabs you and carries you to hold you. Maybe scary, sinks into you. He's just like, love me. And he just like sinks into you. And when you hold him, you can feel his heartbeat, And I'm sure like he can feel yours too. He's found a way to just be, and to receive love. Yes, we have a lot of conversation today about how do you give love, but I think receiving love is a very underestimated skill. How do you actually accept a compliment? And I'm trying to be better, I'm trying to have some forced Asian humility or something like that, right? Or worry that people think I'm like pompous or what. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like how you actually navigate like compliment even is very tricky. You're a handsome individual.
Thank you.
Okay, well done. You've got a beautiful smile. You should keep smiling. Yeah, see, You have excellent iPhone skills. You know, for example. Right, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? So it's like, to me, like, it's Gizmo successful because he's found a way to finally allow love in his life. Even me, on some days, it's just like, how fully do I love myself on some days, right? Some days I berate myself because I did this, I did that, you know, like. So I feel that Gizmo is a beacon of potential inspiration. And once in a while, you meet some folks who you can tell that love emanates from them. And I just can't name who it is right now, but Gizmo is nearby. So it's an easy target.
Are there any routines or habits that you find important? Morning, evening routines?
I just think any routine that anyone can consistently stick to, the routines that you can do consistently is the most.
So what are importance?
Okay, for me, is that I think the kind of like the routine that really is consistent for me is veganism. So it's not a routine in a strict sense, but the thing is that every meal I eat, I'm reminded that I've rewired 32 years of programming, of parents taking you for ice cream to reward you, from celebrating over a steak, from trying out this new exotic seafood because it means you've made it in life. Years of programming, I've rewired it with every bite I take. So to me, like that, I think is very powerful anti-routine, if you will, but kind of like a routine to just eat live plant-based life.
Are there any asks or requests for the people who are listening? Last parting words, thoughts to take away, consider, or try?
Yeah, I got one. I got one pertinent one. The definition of aspiration and success currently is quite limited. What gets likes on Instagram and all of these things, like, oh, you're traveling somewhere, you met this famous person, or you're doing this, you know, there's a lot of these things which guide a lot of motivations. I would say that actually succeeding those things, I'm not shitting on it. I'm saying that actually it's easy. It's easy to actually succeed like that. That's the first thing I'd like people to know. Because it's known. It's like a known game and it's obvious. And a lot of people have done it. That's why it's kind of there. It's easy to win at that. But how easy to actually be a kind human person, to just stop and not reply the email that you typed furiously a few seconds ago and say, you know what, I'm just going to type it later when I've calmed down. How difficult it is to have your parents felt like you were around for them when they needed you. How difficult is it for your husband or your wife, your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever friend that in this day and age that you have loved dearly to feel like you're listening? How do you do all of that while trying to get the likes on Instagram or while trying to succeed in your career and just trying to make it? I think that is a worthy pursuit. And that's the advice I'm giving to all my entrepreneurs today, is that number one, I don't want them to kill themselves out, right? But number two is that it's so almost like the other way around kind of thing where you would think that it's distracting from your work to actually be there for friends and family and to have hobbies and to exercise and to institute these new habits. You would think it's almost opposite. But the reward and the energy that it gives you, it's like this spiral, you know, and it's so amazing. That, I think, is hard. And I hope that people pay attention to that and not just the narrow limitations of success. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do that may seem distracting and not worthy of time, but, you know, I've spent more time with my parents this year. Actually, every year I spend a little bit more time with my parents. Yeah, it's good lah. It's good. It feels good.
Any upcoming projects, and where can people find you on the internet? Too many.
No. I think it's a very good question. Actually, I'm updating my website now. So my website, I'm trying to compile videos and try to write more. So if you go to khailee.com and then my Instagram and my Facebook and my LinkedIn, I guess I update it every now and then. So as new things emerge, they'll be announced there. So I think the nature of my work, like a lot of things are very confidential until it actually is real, right? So when it's real, then it just gets announced there. And I hope to work with many more people who are very creative in many more projects in years to come. So like interesting people. Some people I know them for a few years, maybe work on something, maybe we don't, right? But as long as we've got a lot of the same people who care about the same things, who have same values, and who are very motivated in our orbit, like we can collaborate on all kinds of things. It's gonna be great.
Perfect.
Oh, okay lah. Still on the weekend lah. Just have a bit of fun. It's chill.